The third round of the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing will take place from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, perhaps one of the most famous courses in the world. The road course opened in 2000 and played host to the FIA Formula One World Championship between 2000 and 2007. And today, as I say, it'll play host to the third round of the 2012 Pro Series of Road Racing. Once again, alongside me in the GlacierTV booth, I'm Will Vincent. That is Marius Gonnenbeck. And Marius, it's all been about tyre wear this week, and these drivers have been struggling to find grip over a long run.
Yeah, good day from me, guys, here at the Brickyard. And you said it, very slippery track here, one of the slipperiest in the whole season. Lots of drivers complaining about finding grip here, especially out of the slower turns. We've got a long mix between the long straight sections, actually the oval part and the long backstretch. And then we're heading into the slower turns, one even down to just about 100 kilometers an hour, and it's just as hard of a mix as it could get, and the drivers still struggle to maintain the grip out of these turns.
So qualifying is taking place at the moment. Drivers are circulating on the racetrack. They have 3 laps and 15 minutes to have the chance to do them. We are having a look. Say we'll get you some pictures from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But you talk about the long straightaways. You've got 2 straightaways here. Of course, you've got that famous front stretch, which has played host to so many memories over the years, both in IndyCar, in NASCAR, and of course, in Formula One. Then you've got that kind of middle back straight as well, the Holman straightaway, which gives you a bit of time to relax after those first couple of corners. He's getting live pictures now from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But Marius, that second sector after the Holman straightaway, that kind of like turns 9, 10, 11, really is difficult. And these drivers really have having to do some really radical things just to be able to get some speed around there.
Yeah, it is, and it's quite difficult to manage. I mean, the turns itself are quite difficult to manage on their own, but you have to manage the compilation. So you not only have to manage one turn, but you have to manage all of them to be really fast and get the exit out of the final turn onto the long straightaway, as you have probably like 20-second full throttle time, and if you don't nail the exit right away, you lose so much time right onto the straight that you can't even gain that on the main straight. You'll be running in the limiter relatively soon, so if you nail the exit out of the turn, you might make up some really important time.
3 drivers have set themselves a qualifying time at the moment. That is Richie Stanaway, currently leading the way in the 72 machine at a time of 1 minute 6.139. Vasily Zaitev is in second and Marcus Caton in the third position. Drivers to say they are out on the racetrack. Jason Lovett, he is currently working his way out of turn number 4. So he is halfway through his first lap of the day. Andrea Boldi is also on a lap, as is Christian Lorente, David DeCourse, Richie Stanaway, Eski Yusi Yakola. Of course, we'll keep an eye out on him. And Marius, we talked to Yakola early on in the week, and he says that of all the racetracks, this is possibly the one that he's not going to do as well at.
Yeah, and that doesn't really surprise me. Alexis has been doing relatively well, let's say not relatively well, but really well in the first 2 rounds. He's won both of them, and well, it appeared that Spa and Motegi have been one of his favorite tracks, so it might have been that he's the first to struggle here, really, and he is the one to really have to deliver here. He's in the pole seat, so he's got the maximum set of points here right now. And if he can repeat this here, he will be in the struggle. And he just finished his first lap and is currently only in 11th position.
Yeah, and that first lap, in fact, he's already down into the 12th spot. 1 minute 6.588 for him. Having a look on board with Richie Stanaway, say in that 72 car, he is currently working his way into turn number 5. This flat out right hand. We'll talk about the track a little bit more after this qualifying session has concluded. But it's out front at the moment. Angelo Benito, a time of 1 minute 5.960, the only driver to get into the 1 minute 5 so far today in this qualifying session. Monegar DG Filo is in the second spot at 1 minute 6.071, with ML Spindle a further 2 100ths of a second behind. Having a look at Stanaway's lap, he's out of that slow section now. He's got turn number 11, and from here on in, it is just floor that accelerator pedal as far down as you can go. We'll bring it on to the banking, and in fact, no, he aborts that lap there, so Stanaway wasn't happy with that one, wasn't able to get the time out of it. He's going to have 1 more lap to try and get the job done. So still Benito from Filo, Spindell in third, Stanaway in fourth, David DeCourse just moving himself up into the 5th position over a time of 1 minute 6.283. Having a look on board with Eski Yusi Yakola now, he is working his way through the middle portion of the racetrack, now onto the Holman straightaway. which runs, actually it's just a public road really, runs all the way down the side of the speed where they use it mainly as a way of getting goods in and out. Now he's down into that slow, tricky section. And Marius, this is the hardest part of the racetrack. You really got to find a way of getting through turns 8, 9 and 10.
You have to, and especially in the race, you have a relatively long first gear, and the turn is so slow. Well, you're in the first gear, so you have the maximum power and the maximum torque right out of the turn, so you have to nail the exit. If you don't, we said it, it's relatively slippery, so you might go sideways, and if you do, you might also lose the car relatively quickly. So you really have to make sure to get a clean exit right way, and as soon as you're out of the turn, you have to go exactly right once again to get the exit out of the turn onto the oval. And it's just the combination of the turns which can either gain you time or completely ruin your lap.
So Yakoda now on his flying lap. This will be his final lap. This is the one he is going to have to make count. He is currently sat in the 13th position, as we said earlier on, in turn 1 minute 6.504. Currently a full 6/10 of a second off the pace. And we talked, as I say, about how Yakoda said this isn't going to be his best racetrack. He surely wants to at least try and get into the top 10, if at all possible, running the curve very roughly there through turns 8 and 9. A nice line through 10, however. Now if he can get himself a good launch out of turn 11, it looks like that section of the racetrack actually wasn't too bad. A little bit of a wiggle coming out of turn number 11, but it is going to be pedal to the metal for him now. Flat out as he comes into turn number 13. You see how they run all the way down below the white line, as they do on the oval, and Yakoda comes past the line, and it is going to be a 1 minute 6.237. He will come 5th position, but still a full 3/10 of a second off pole.
Yeah, and Emil Spindle currently on a fast lap. Lots of spectators and fans cheering here, and he puts a 1 minute 06.1. So no improvement for Emil Spindle here. Richie Stanaway, however, has done his lap potential, and that puts Enzo Bonito on pole position right away. Just currently looking through the grid, and it looks like at least the top 5 have completed their 3 laps.
Well, you say that, but Spindle, technically, he had one more lap that he could have attempted. Sorry, that was Bonito. He was your pole sitter. He's got himself a full 10th of a second gap to Modgar DG Philo in second. Philo struggled on that last lap, wasn't able to get a time out of it. Perhaps Philo could have gone for pole position, because this first sector on that final run looked very strong, Mario.
Yeah, and I'm taking a look at the general pace of the guys here. I'm really surprised. The grid is closer than ever. Currently, our pole setter, the only one in the 105 here, Enzo Bonito, 105.96, is just over 1 second off the 27th last qualify, Marcus Catton, who's currently run a 107.1. So he's the only one with a 107, sorry. And in between them, between Enzo and Marcus, the 26 cars all did a 106.
Yep, we have 28 drivers who so far set a qualifying time. One driver hasn't set a qualifying time so far, and that is Wes Richards, who in fact hasn't set a qualifying time all season long. Having a look with Cordasso, as he's on the racetrack at the moment, he's currently sat in the 13th position in that 65 car, working his way now down into turn number 6. It's long 180 degree left-hand corner. You really got to be getting onto the power early here, but then you got to slow it back down into turn number 7. And that is a point where you can lose a lot of time. Cordasso there just couldn't get this grip coming out of turn 7.
Yeah, and it's not really difficult to get the grip out of the faster turns. However, still it is more difficult than on other tracks, as you'd expect. The track is just so slippery that even out of the 3rd or 4th gear turns, you have to be really careful on the gas to get the traction out of the turn. And Joao now putting the car out of the last turns and also cancelling his last lap. And by the looks of it, we are through the qualifying.
We are done. So we'll run through, and as I say, every week, this is the provisional grid for what will be the 3rd round of the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing. It will be Enzo Bonito lining up in pole position, a time of 1 minute 5.960. Keep that in mind. Alongside him will be Modgar DG Philo in the 2nd spot. Row number 2 will be Emil Spindle and Richie Stanaway, 3rd and 4th positions respectively. Aleski UC Akola will come home in the 5th spot, with Samuel Lieber lining up in the 6th position. David DeCorp in 7th. Max Del Orco in 8th, Simon Cattell in 9th, Jesper Pedersen rounding out your top 10. It will then be Dave Geelink 11th, Paul Ilbrink 12th, PJ Sturgill 13th, Yal Cordasso, we talked about him, in 14th, Ryan Terpstra in 15th, Christian Lorente in 16th, Timo Even in 17th, Yudo Narumi, a very bad day for him, all the way down in the 18th position, Pierre Brizzo in 19th, Vasily Zaitov in the 20th spot. And when we have a look through this field, I mean, you've got drivers like Benito, Filo, and Spindell having good qualifying sessions once again, Marius. Yakola struggling, Narumi struggling. Some of these guys, it's getting a bit shaped up a bit out front.
Yeah, and I'm checking the comparison to the result of the race at Twin Ring Motegi, of course, being last weekend, the 17th November, the race at Twin Ring Motegi, which, of course, Alexius Yakola has won. He started from pole, he took a dominated victory, followed closely by Moga Filo, and Moga started on third last time, and he's on second this time, and a bit disappointed for Enzo Bonito as our pole sitter right now. He only finished sixth after starting fifth, so we had him covered in the broadcast, but it was like he's really struggled at Motegi. So this could be his shot at making some valuable points onto Alexius Yakola, and as well Moga Filo in second. Good run as well from Moga, a very consistent season so far. A good result at Spa, second at Motegi, starting from third, and yeah, it just looks like from second position right now, he might have a shot at winning this. Emil Spindel in third, he also scored fourth after starting sixth, so not really much places made up for the top runners here in the last race. And Richie Stanaway finally have seemed to find some pace after a devastating race at Motegi, where he was the first retiree after just 2 turns, and well, he's got hit by, I believe it was Simon Cattell slightly, and that ended his race on the roof right away. So Stanaway might be very happy with the 4th position, and in 5th we only got Alexius Yakola, and the winner of the last race might not be too satisfied with that.
Indeed, and of course you just saw there the standings after 2 of 9 races in the iRacing.com Road Pro Series of 2012, and it is Alexius Yakola with 100 points, a full 25-point gap over Modka DG Filo. In the second position, a 5-point gap separates Filo from Narumi, a further 5-point gap from Narumi to Decor, and then Emil Spindel in the 5th position, 64 points on the board. And when you have a look at that 6th position though, Enzo Benito, he's really going to be happy with that pole position, as, you know, he's got a chance to try and re-establish himself for getting the top 3 in the championship.
Yeah, he really has, and just after last week, we had our doubts, to be honest, at least I had. He did a brilliant race at Spa, but of course the drivers had a lot of preparation here, and now we're approaching the mid-season really, so only 1 week between the races, so you can't really even waste a single day on your preparation. And after the great race at Spa, it seemed that Enzo might have been struggling because of that here at Motegi, only the 6th position for him. Nevertheless, he hasn't really been much off pace, and I think the guy we have to worry most about is Yudai Narumi. He finished 5th position at Motegi, and he's nowhere to be found in the top 5. In fact, he is only currently in 18th position. Not to say that he's only half a second off the lead here, but it just shows that you have to nail the lap, else you'll be way off, and with 18th position, Yudai has once again stated that.
Indeed, and you know, when we look at the last 2 races, the top 5 drivers at Spa, the top 5 drivers at Motegi, it's going to be very doubtful to see whether that's going to be the case here today. We'll be back in a minute. In the meantime, we're going to take you around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway from the eyes of Petri Kotovara. We'll be right back. A lap with Petri Kotovara now as he comes down into turn number 1, about 189 miles an hour as he hits the apex, then brakes very deeply as he comes into turn number 1, making sure he doesn't hit those cones on the right hand side, which will give him a slowdown penalty. Up through the gearbox once again now as he comes down into turn number 4. Turn 5 itself is flat out as you see him there using the curb once again, then slowing it down for turn number 6. It's long 180 degree left hand corner. Had to set the car down nicely after that to get a good run through turn 7. Now onto the home and straight away. This is the back stretch, giving him a little bit of time to breathe as he prepares himself now for turn number 8. This left-hander 90 degree corner, and you've really got to be careful for this. Turn number 9 and now 10, sweeping it through the left-hand side. Now building up a little bit of speed, braking once again now down into turn 11. Then it's flat out all the way from here. You go up the gears, going onto the banking as they come out of what is essentially turn number 2 of the oval. Now onto the banking, and you see they're running all the way down below the white line there, as the IndyCar drivers do as they come down past the yard of bricks and past the start-finish line, and that is a lap in the books from the eyes of Petri Kotovara. So that was a lap from Petri Kotovara, taken from the 2011 iRacing.com Grand Prix World Championship Series. You're listening to the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing pre-race show here on Glacier TV. Will Vincent and Marius Gonenbeck in the booth all day long. And Marius, we need to come back to this racetrack. You know, Sector 1, you've really got to have good mechanical and aerodynamic grip. Sector 2, you know, you just got that long straightaway really, but then that third sector, getting yourself through that kind of chicane section really is where you can gain or lose a lot of lap time, but you've also still got to get it well, otherwise you're going to be setting yourself up perhaps to get past down the front straightaway.
Yeah, and that just put up the question, is it really going to be a different situation than on Motegi? We've had lots of fights on Motegi, lots of guys running close behind each other, but it's just not happening. No one has been overtaking there. There hasn't been any chances unless your front runner made a mistake. So is it really going to be different here? You've certainly got the oval section, you've certainly got the draft there, but then if your gearing isn't long enough, and I remember Jason Lovett from the DWC, I will never forget that, he's always been running with a seriously long gearing, so he's been way down the limiter, so in any kind of slipstream situation, basically, Lovett was the one you wouldn't want behind you. And I wonder if some of the drivers go with that. I mean, especially taking a look at place 10, place 11, Dave Geerling, Simon Cattell. They are all in the middle of the grid. And if you really want to overtake here, you just need a longer gearing, else you might not be able to make the pass here in the infield.
Yeah, you need a longer gearing, but of course, taking a longer gear will affect you when you're running by yourself. And it's the kind of trade that you have to do between what you need. Do you want something to work, you know, while you're in clean air, or do you want something to work when you're in traffic? Either or. Of course, iRacing did mandate a change to the aerodynamic kind of draft effect on this straightaway, and that perhaps could improve overtaking. In fact, more than the draft itself, it was kind of more the effect of the cars in dirty air. That's been changed a little bit. From what I've seen elsewhere, Marius, it looks as though we might get a bit more overtaking than Motegi.
Yeah, we might. And good quote here from Joni Beckman, who's, of course, the one responsible for the broadcast and the cameras there. So hi for Joni here. Joni said that plenty of the drivers will go with a 6-gear setup and then take the draft 7th. So that basically means 7th gear only for the long section on the oval. So if you really want to overtake, you just take the 7th gear. You also save a bit of fuel if you're not directly running in the draft. But if you are, however, the gear might be long enough to make the pass down in turn 1. So if you have the chance and really look for overtaking from, let's say, 10th, 12th position and make up some positions, you might be looking strong on your race pace. And yeah, you can't really make overtakes. So I wonder, Yudai Narumi plays 18. What's his strategy? And also Teemu Ivonen, for example, 17. Christian Lorente on 16. These guys have been having good races here on Motegi. Lorente finishing 10th and Ivonen finishing 20th even. So he had not such a good race, but still he might be able to improve this here. And if you want, you just have to go with the longer 7th gear.
And it's actually a very similar thing to what we do. I'm obviously an IndyCar driver myself, very similar to what we do. Have your gears running by yourself, have an extra gear for running in the draft, and fine-tuning that really can make a big difference. I think, however, still, the 2 biggest points to gain time is going to be, in fact, I'll say 3. You've got to start. You've got when the tyres start wearing out, and you've got a strategy, those pit stops. And I think today, it's going to be a little bit more different from what we've seen with the simple one-stop strategies, and perhaps the 2-stoppers might work.
Yeah, they might work, and even on this track, we have the kind of situation you really have to make sure you pick the right strategy. And for example, Enzo with the pole right now, if no one is overtaking you, good. But if, for example, Enzo picks a longer first stint and gets overtaken right at the start by Moga or Emil, who's right behind him, it might be the problem for Enzo that he has to make up the pace, and he's just running behind these guys and can't really improve. And if they pit earlier, he has to nail that one lap. And we've seen on Motegi how important it is. If you stay out longer, you have to nail the lap. You may not come out in traffic, however, and only then you have a chance, while you of course see the standings on your screen right now. So it looks good for Alexios Iakola still. I wouldn't say 5th position is such a big disaster, but it will be a lot more work than on Motegi and Spa.
Yeah, And I think also that when you talk about strategy, we saw some drivers coming in perhaps 2-3 laps too early. We saw drivers coming in 2-3 laps too late, and you've really got to find that balance. And it's in some ways it's a bit of luck. At a track like this, which is so short as well, you also want to get some good track placement. The last thing you're going to want to do is come into pit road and come out right ahead, so right behind of 2-3 cars, slower than you, because that will completely mesh your entire race up.
Yeah, it will, and well, I'm just looking forward to it, honestly. Indianapolis has been a great venue for racing in the DWC and also in the past Pro Series last year. It has been proven to be a great venue for lots of fighting and, of course, lots of slipstream battles. But I hope, however, the first turn will be clean. You don't really have an apex, do you? I mean, you have some cones on the right side. You, of course, have the curb on the left end. But to make an orientation to where you want to go, you have to focus on the cones and easily get a slowdown there, easily miss the turn, and it's just going to be too close at the first turn.
You've got those bumps there as well. I mean, I've driven this track quite a bit this week, and that bump right in the middle of turn one can really upset the balance of your race car. We'll talk more about how penalties can play a big effect in this race. We'll be back in a minute after these messages. Proto Ice coming to you rounds number 7 and 8 coming tonight here on Glacier TV, part of iRacing Super Saturday on Glacier TV from Sebring International Raceway. And Marius, we saw the 16th Street Racing League. They were racing there this past Tuesday. It is a tough track. We've got ourselves Gregor Hutu out front. We've got Martin Kroenke in second, but we're still trying to see Jesse Niemanen make up some ground in those second races.
Yeah, Jesse's been incredibly unlucky in the first couple of races, either being involved in an incident or just being straight away taken out in the first few turns where we had the big star crash at Road America, and also Suzuka didn't really look that safe. So a lot of cars involved in the star crashes here, and yeah, Sebring isn't really the most predictable first two turns, so I hope everything goes good there. Usually the first race is pretty safe, pretty good clean racing there, but in the second race, yeah, things tend to go a bit haywire there. But meanwhile, we're still at Indianapolis, and might take a look through the grid right away as we're going to present you the race session in just about 5 minutes. So we've got Enzo Bonito, the Italian, on pole, only one in a 105 range, and we haven't talked about the gap, so he's actually the only one being a bit, yeah, a bit more than just a couple of hundredth away from the driver right behind you. So actually, it's 1/10 he has to Mogafilo in second, and that is quite impressive. Not to speak of that he has the pole, but also he is the only one with a 105 and has quite a bit of gap to Mogafilo. So I would say brilliant job from Enzo.
A brilliant job by Enzo, indeed. And we talked about this at Motegi last week. There's a couple of hundredths that put you underneath that 1 minute 6 barrier, getting you into the 1 minute 5s. That is going to have a huge psychological advantage there for Enzo Benito.
Yeah, second position, Mogfilo. Not a big surprise for me. Moga has been looking strong on Spa and Motegi. Always been in the top three so far, making good race starts, so I wonder how that will play out. Second for Mogafilo, and I think he's looking very strong for the race.
Yeah, Philo, he had a great start. Let's not forget Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Unfortunately, he lost the lead as they came down into Lacombe from Yuda Narumi. But a very good starter. He is one who you have to look out for. Yes, he's on the dirty side of the grid, but he can still make it happen down into turn number one. Third place, ML Spindle. He is a driver who, I think, in my mind, as we come into this middle part of the season, is one of those dark horses who could, if Yakoda has a couple of bad races, try and take that victory, that chance for the championship away from Yakoda. And he's had some good form all season long.
Yeah, he's had, and Emil is nevertheless one of the most experienced guys, together with, for example, Samuel Libert in 6th position. Richie Stanaway in 4th, also looking very strong, and Alexios Iakola, your championship leader, in 5th position here. So all the top runners right away at the top of the grid. And we'll just be showing you a bit of a commercial right there to get you psyched to the race, and we'll be right back with the race here at the Brickyard.
It's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Drivers, start your engines!
Michael Conti comes up at a corner number 4 in the checkered flag. He wins his first NASCAR iRacing.
And we are back here at Indianapolis Road Course, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the road version here with the Williams Toyota FW31. The iRacing Road Pro Series Round 3 is about to start here. And we were just going through the grid here, had the top 6 there with Samuel Libert closing the top 6 right away. And these guys have all been pretty much straight away forward in the top 5 all race, or all season long rather. And the only disappointment I can find so far is Yuda Narumi is only in 18th position, so way down the grid here.
Yeah, he struggled quite badly here today. And with the field the way it is, the competitiveness of the field, it's the most competitive Pro Series we've had in God knows how long. You have to be on it each and every week. And this track is very different to what we've had these previous couple of weeks. And I just don't think Narumi's been able to dial that car in as much as he needs to. And everything considered, it looks as though at the last minute, some people found some grip, others struggled. Narumi's one of them that struggled. Simple as that.
Yeah. Absolutely, and just taking a look between 9th position Simon Cattell, who's had a good run, 106.356. Keep that in mind. Place 18, Yuda Narumi, 106.511. So that is less than 1.5 tenths, and you can't even put that in words. It's so close. The whole grid is within 1.166 seconds, and that is 28 cars. So it really looks like Yuda couldn't put the lap together. He still managed the respectable 106.5, but it just shows that how far down the grid he is. Imagine he would be 1/10 quicker. He would make up an entire 7 positions.
That, you just summed it up perfectly to a T. And that's going to come back into the racing as well. Narumi, he's struggling in qualifying. Maybe he'll be better in race pace, but we talked about overtaking here. We've talked about, the tricks that some of these drivers might be using to try and use that magical 7th draft gear here today rather than, you know, the conventional setup that you use with all 7 gears throughout the racetrack. And Narima's going to have to really be on it from the get-go. He can make up some paces maybe at the start. We saw he is a good starter to these races, very good on lap number 1. But when you're back that far down the grid as well, Marius, you've got to make sure that you keep your car clean.
Yeah, you really have to. And to talk about these mid-pack fights, we had them at Spa, we had them at Motegi, and just as you go down the top 5, top 6 guys, which are always at the top of the grid, right away here, Bonito, Filho, Spindle, Stanaway, Usiakula, Liber, and usually Yuda Narumi. So including maybe Davide Korb, we've got 7 or 8 drivers which are always at the top of the grid, and then it's a quite big cut-off right away to the mid-pack, which is about 10 cars long. Last race we had Termele, we had Cattell, Geeling, Ilbrink, Sturgis. We had all these guys just within a tenth of a second in the race, just barely behind each other, just side by side all race long, and it just looks like it's going to be the same right here. 106.2345. It's no gap at all, and these cars are so close together, it's just going to be once again the same.
And it could go one of 2 ways, you know. Whenever you come to Indy, you have to talk about turns 12, 13, the front straightaway, and the huge effects you can get of the draft. And we've seen before that can lead to a lot of overtaking. It could just be these drivers are so closely matched that they won't be able to make a pass at all. So that midfield battle is going to be incredibly frustrating for some of these drivers here today. And it's certainly, as always, going to be one that we're going to have to keep an eye out. Out front, however, though, Marius, I'm going to have to ask you, can Benito make it a flag-to-flag victory? Can Philo get it? I don't know.
It's hard to say, really. It's really hard to say. And I wonder it's also a psychological thing. I mean, on Motegi, Bonito has been the one struggling. He had to defend against Narumi, he had to defend against Spindle, and he's lost both of these battles, and both Spindle and Narumi got past, and if Spindle could secure 4th and Bonito only 6th. So I think it's just, it's just a question of psychological influence here if Enzo Bonito can really pull that off. However, I think as soon as the race is underway, as soon as these cars make the start and made it into the first turn, all that is forgotten, and I think that will be one of the very few very good points for Moga Philo to take the lead right away. And yeah, I just think it will be very hard for Moga. He's competitive as hell, and he's just looking forward to this race, I know it. And if he can't make this pass on the lead, just after a few seconds right away, it's sure going to be difficult for him.
Indeed, and you know, this race start here, Indy, it's a long run down into turn number 1. It's going to be, you know, intense action. We're going to go green racing in what, less than 2 minutes time. Very quickly, we want to send a big shout out to our friends at ETV. They're the guys who do the Pro Series of the NASCAR side. And we've heard news that JD Webb is not in a good way at the moment. He had some heart surgery a couple of days ago. Everyone here at Glacier sending all their best wishes to him.
Yeah, get well soon, just to say that. Of course, we've split up the road and the oval broadcast, 2 different companies there. ETV doing a brilliant job on the oval side, and well, I can just say we've watched the last couple of races and they just do a great job there.
Indeed. So it's, yeah, good luck. Hope he gets better as well. Meanwhile, back to Indianapolis. We race, obviously, because we do so, and we do it with pride. We've got the grid, 29 drivers lining up here for the 3rd round of the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing. As we said, just one qualifier didn't set a qualifying time. That is Wes Richards in the 43 machine. Is Enzo Benito out front, Monica DT Fido in 2nd, Emil Spindel in 3rd, Richie Stanaway in 4th, Aleski Usi Yakola in the 5th position with Liber de Cobbs, Diolko, Cattell, and Pedersen running out your top 10. Final thoughts, Marius?
Yeah, final thoughts. Winner of the start, Moga Philo. Emil Spindle getting a good start. And hopefully Richie Stanaway gets this car through clean into turn 1 and not on the roof. And we've had the lights go green just in a couple of seconds. And it is green. And it is Enzo Bonito with a good start and also Spindle with a good start. And Spindle right away takes the 2nd position. Moga Philo with a bad start here. Richie Stanaway gets the car good in the grid. Philo in 3rd, entering the 1st turn, right beside Alexius Yakola. He's right into 4th position already. So Stanaway lost 1 position. And so far it looks fairly clean.
Indeed, yes, they're coming down into turn number 4. We've got a big crash, so we need to go back into turn number 1. A number of drivers involved in an incident down into turn number 1. I can see that Max Dell'Occhio in the 8th position. He is out of the race, and it was all down in the middle section of the racetrack. And I say Diorcia was involved in that, and it just happened as though you have Paul Ilbrink who was involved in that incident, as well as Javier De Carme. Zazie Zatov was involved in an incident. We'll try and get confirmation of how many drivers were involved in that. Out front, however, it is still Enzo Benito leading the way as he comes out on to the banking for the first time. He has got himself about a 8 tenths of a second gap over Emil Spindle. DG Philo is in the third spot, but struggling at the moment. Richie Stanaway, so he's fallen back into that 5th position. I have to say that what's happened to Aleski Yakola. Yakola is out.
He is out, and we're just rewinding the replay to see what happened. It looks like he ran into the back of Morgan Filo there, into the turn number 5. He clips the back of the Brazilian here, damages his rear, and is put off the track here, and he has to tow the car back to the pits. And also looks like Filo has some severe damage. Also, he is down pit road.
Yeah, Philo is bringing that car down towards pit road, and we've got incidents happening all over the place on the racetrack. We're going to try and settle it down for you. We've got the huge battle in the midfield. It is still out front. Enzo Benito, a gap from Emil Spindo, is now about 8 tenths of a second on the racetrack. Richie Stanaway is now up into the 3rd position by the look of it. And it's all going on this racetrack, but it's still Benito from Philo as they're working away into turn number 11 once again. And Benito out front is dominating at the moment.
Yeah, Bonito and also Emil Spindle broke away free. Of course, having the 2 cars right behind them clipped and off the track. So currently also Morgan Filo way down the grid in 21st. Richie Stanaway in 3rd position. Had a good start, could save the car, no incidents for him. 3rd position, but also 3 seconds down the lead right away. And that is some really big gap to make up. Morgan Filo still down pit road. Alexei Usiakola, damaged car down pit road. And also Paul Ilbrink and Fabio Locamo have been down pit road after a couple of seconds right away. They all had to tow the car and get some repairs. And it really doesn't look good for Usiakola and Filho. And they are both still repairing the car. And Filo's just exiting the pits there, but it looks like the car is still damaged. And I don't think that will be a successful race for either one of them.
Yeah, and it's blown the championship picture wide open. We've got cars still battling on the racetrack, battling for position. I can just see Paul Ilbrink actually coming back onto the racetrack, as well as DG Philo. Enzo Benito is still your race leader. To run for your top 5 is Benito from Spindale, from Stanaway, from Cattell, from Dave Geeling. They are your top 5. A team are even in 6th. BJ Sturgis in 7th. Yao Cordasso in 8th. Samuel Liebert in 9th. And Pierre Abrizzo running out your top 10. Richard Stanaway has got himself now 3 seconds pretty much a game over Emil Spindle. We'll have a look at their lap times as they come past the start-finish line. And Emil Spindle's last lap time at the completion of lap number 3 was a 1 minute 7.625, and Stanaway a 1 minute 7.531. Stanaway's catching, but not much.
Yeah, and we've got Jesper Petersen on the cameras right here. 3 wide down the main straight. Jason Lovett going remember I said that Lovett with his 7th gear, and he's overtaken 2 cars right away, Jesper Petersen and Miguel Martin, and Lovett comes from 13th and puts the car right into 11th.
Yeah, and that was a great pass. And you talk about Lovett, that 7th gear magical draft gear, it worked perfectly for him there. This is what we talked about, you know, that midfield battle is going to go one way or the other. As far as Jason Lovett's concerned, he's using it to his advantage for the moment. He's now up into, what, I believe the 13th position, sorry, the 11th position. He has got Yudo Narumi ahead of him. We talked about how Narumi had a bad start. He's actually sat right now in the 10th spot, trying to work on Pierre Abrizzo and Yao Cordasso in the battle for the 8th position.
Yeah, and he's profiting several happenings on the track, as well Samuel Liebert is down pit road. Just taking a look at the start once again. He's been having an incident with Davide Corps, and to that tumbled down the car of Davide Corps. One time a barrel roll down the gravel, and Davide Corps currently in 18th, and he had a great race at Motegi right away, and also at Spa. And 18th position for him right now, it also doesn't look good. So we've had the favorites of the race pretty much dying here. El Orco out, Usiakola out, Filho, not exactly out, but not in the reach of getting any valuable points here. Samuel Liebert early in the pits, and also Davide Korb heavily damaged. And like you said, Yudan Rumi right up into 10th position.
Having a look at the replay of the start, and it just looked as though it was down that battle for about 8th, 9th, 10th positions on the racetrack where it all started going wrong. It's a very narrow straightaway here, of course, because of the oval. And by the time it opened up into turn number 1, there was just no room for these drivers. You see that replay on your screen, and disappointing for a number of those drivers. We have lost ourselves some big names. This is going to throw the championship battle wide open to run through drivers who are completely out of position. You have got Aleski UC Akoda, who just scored 3 laps down at the moment and is out of the race. Modgar DG Philo is 1 lap down, however, is circulating on the racetrack. Paul Ilbrank is also scored 1 lap down. Vesely Zatov 1 lap down. Fabio DeCarmo 1 lap down. The only other true retiree at the moment is Max Delorco. He is sat in the 29th and last position on the racetrack. Checking in with your race leader, Enzo Benito. He's pulled out that gap now to 1.4 seconds over ML Spindell in the 33 car. And Spindell is holding that gap nicely to Richie Stanaway in the battle for the 3rd position. That gap is as close as you can get to exactly 3 seconds on the racetrack. The gap from Stanaway to Cattell is about 2.5 seconds. That's about for the 3rd and 4th position. And Dave Geeling is a further 1.5 seconds back in that Western Wolf racing car. And Benito say he's dominating out front, but these top 3 drivers have been very evenly matched all of a sudden.
Yeah, they do. And taking a look at the team situation right away, Enzo Bonito driving for Inex Racing here, your leader of the race, still completing the 7th lap right away. Emil Spindle in 2nd, CSG Jira Racing, Richie Stanaway, Team Redline, and then it's just a couple of Inex drivers, Simon Cattell, Dave Geeling, Timo Ivonen and PJ Sturgis. So as team results, top 7, 5 drivers from Inex Racing. It couldn't get much better than that.
Do we do a constructors championship in this?
Well, we don't, but
yeah.
I think it's good to keep track of it. I mean, you guys practice together, and well, we had it in the DWC, so why not do it here?
Battle for 9th position on the racetrack. This is Pietro Ibrizzo and Yuda Narumi, and Narumi has been looking as though he's been trying to make a pass on Ibrizzo for a while now. He was trying to make a move down into turn number 1 about a lap and a half ago. That didn't work out for him. Tried to make a move once again. That didn't happen. But while Narumi is battling Ibrizzo, they're also catching Ial Pedasso in the battle for the 8th position at the same time. So we're looking as though we're going to have a battle for 8th, 9th, 10th position on the racetrack. And I tell you what, Jason Lover has caught up there as well. And we know just how good Lover is in a straight line here today.
Yeah, and Lovett is going to get a slipstream of Narumi there, but he's not as close as Narumi is to Ibrizzo, and I wonder how Narumi has set up the 7th gear of the car. He would be close enough to make up some time. Not sure if it's going to be enough for the first turn, but Narumi definitely has some big amount of slipstream there. We're going to stick with him here and see if he can make the pass into the first turn. 313 kilometers an hour, and he's getting closer and closer, but no, it does not look like it's going to be enough. No. And he doesn't try it.
Yeah, Pedersen, however, does take the position away from Jason Lovett. So we talked about how good Lovett was in a straight line. Pedersen just breezed past him down there into turn number 1. With Pedersen now up into the 11th position, Jason Lovett down into 12th, and they've got it all to do now. Just got closed down about half a second to Yuda Narumi, and we'll see whether these 2 cars can really work the draft efficiently. But it looks like Narumi and Ibrizzo and Cordasso very closely matched on the racetrack at the moment, all running very similar setups. It looks as though once we're in the draft, Ibrizzo and Narumi really can't do anything to try and make cars happen.
Yeah, so far no changes at the top of the grid. 8th lap completed. Enzo Bonito still leading the grid here. A mere 1.7 seconds to Emil Spindle in 2nd position. Spindle in the last laps losing a couple of tenths, a couple of hundredths even per lap. Not much, but he's not really gaining on him. So Richie Stanaway down in 3rd position, 5.8 seconds. So he's a bit off the top 2 right away. In 4th position, Simon Cattell. In 5th, Dave Geeling. The entire team Inex there, Timo Ivonen and PJ Sturgis place 6 and 7. And Ivonen is 10 seconds off the lead. Geeling right ahead of him, his team at 9.9. And then we've got a gap to P7 right away.
Tell you what, Marcus Caton there is getting past by Christian Lorente down into turn number 1. I had no idea how that happened, but Lorente was on the outside line, somehow managed to make it work. He was so close to hitting the grass, and as soon as you hit the grass here at Indy, you end up in a world of trouble. But Lorente moving himself up now into the 16th position, moving Marcus Caton down into the 17th spot. Having a look further down the field as well, Richard somehow managed to get himself up into the 21st position at the start. And we've got 23 cars on the lead lap currently. Ryan Terpstra is the last car on the lead lap circulating on the racetrack. Checking in this battle, however, for 3rd, 4th and 5th positions on the racetrack, and it looks as though that Dave Geeling is slowly starting to reel in Simon Cattell in that battle for 4th. And as Capel is working his way on the racetrack, his last lap time was a 1:07.703. You compare that to Dave Geeling's 1:07.540. So about a 2/10 of the second game there for Dave Geeling in the 41 machine. He's got Timo Evenen just about a second behind him as well in the 6th position. Evenen having a good race there in the 59 car as they're working their way now down onto the Holman straightaway, of course, named after the great Holman George family. PJ Sturgill still in that 7th position, is falling back from these drivers at the moment, but of course you can never discount Sturgill from one of these races. Hal Cordasso in the 8th spot, Piero Brizzo in 9th, has still got Yudo Narumi all over the rear of him. However, Pedersen and Lovett looking as though they're trying to close back in on that party, and Pedersen is in a great position as they come out of turn number 11. You've got Yudo Narumi looking closer than he's been all race long, and Narumi's off, so Narumi is off there out of turn number 11. I think he just caught the grass there. He just veered to the right-hand side, straight into the wall. Narumi is out of the race.
Yeah, and he's not even trying to cover, so it might even be more than that. It looks like he clipped the little bump on the exit of the turn as curb, and it goes right off into a bump, and he's clipped that end. Yeah, he's heavily into the wall, so no wonder why he didn't recover from that. And it's Narumi out, it is Liebert heavily damaged and almost 1 minute down. It is Fabio Docamo 1 lap down, Morafilo almost 2 laps down now, Vasily Zaitsev out, Paul Ilbring out, and Alexei Usiakal and also Mark Stell Orko out. So yeah, 5 or 6 of the championship contenders out after just about 10 laps here.
And I'm having a look at the replay of Narumi, and it just looks like he caught the left-hand side tyres on the grass just a little bit too much. The car speeds right at him. He had no chance to catch it back up, and I was saying he was just lining himself up for the best chance he's had all race long over at Brizzo. They came down past the start-finish line, but Brizzo now working on lap number 11. He's got himself a bit of pressure from Jesper Pedersen still, but Pedersen's now got to spend a couple of laps to try and reel in that gap. He's now into the top 10 in that 80 car, with Jason Lovett in the 48 machine in the 11th position, both benefiting from that incident. Checking in on your race leader, Enzo Benito, however, just putting a lap now on Ryan Terpstra in the 56 machine. Terpstra is struggling today. Having a look, no damage on the race car, but his times have been about 2-3 seconds off the pace from what he expects him to do. Benito now working his way through traffic, as I say, with ML Spindle just 2 seconds behind. And at this time, we would like to very quickly bring up into the Glacier TV booth Aleski, Jussi Akola, and Aleski all went wrong from you early on today. Unfortunately, we haven't got a chance to speak to Yakoda. We'll try and talk to him later on in the race. I say, meanwhile, it is still Enzo Benito leading the way in the 73 car. We've got Emma Spindle in the 2nd position. I have to say, however, Spindle looking as though he's closed that gap by about 3 tenths of a second that previous lap, and he's got himself a bit of a draft as they came down into turn 1, which will help him from Ryan Terpstra. So Spindle looking as though he's trying to use this 13th lap of the race kind of into that middle of the first stint now to try and close that gap back down to Enzo Benito as we start to think, Marius, about the first pit stop of the day, which is only going to be what 10-15 laps away.
Yeah, we've had a bit of a contact to Ryan Terpstra out of the race, and he's been saying that some of the drivers might even go for the 1 stop here, and it's not really one of the most tire consuming tracks. Nevertheless, after 15-20 laps, the tires tend to get worn and they tend to just smear away, and it's really hard to get the car out of the turn then. But if you can make them last, and if you can just be the kind of Mark Webber driver here and make the tires last, you might be going for a 1 stop here, though I think not many drivers will try that, so it's probably on the 2-stop strategy, and that will put us to about 20 to 25 laps, and I believe Alexei Usiakala is with us now.
Indeed, and Alexei Usiakala, welcome to the Glacier TV booth. Unfortunately, difficult race for you. Started down on the 5th position, and it all went wrong on lap number 1.
Well, I got a good start and I got past Ritchie, and then I was going behind Mogar on the left-hander turn, and well, he was on the right side and I was going in the inside there, but suddenly he started to turn left 50 meters before the apex hits the turn, so I just could not wait that, and I can't even hit the brakes before I was already behind him.
And you came to the race as championship leader. It looks as though you might not leave the race as the leader of the championship, but how do you bounce back for the next round next week?
Well, this happens. This is racing, and I got one drop a week. This was it.
10-4, I'd say we hope to see you on better form next week. And Marius, you did make a good point there. These drivers do have one drop week, and for a lot of the championship rivals, that is going to be happening this week, because you talked about it, you know, some of the big championship contenders, I think 6 of the top 10, you say, out of the race very early on today.
Yeah, and I think Bonito will be the one, I don't think he's smiling yet in the cockpit, but I think he'll be just happy to have a clean race so far and maybe run away from Emil Spindler. So he really looks as strong as in the qualifying in the race. And currently Emil Spindler is he's following, but yeah, he's not exactly gaining. He will be lucky to keep this kind of gap, but the race is still long. We've had 73 laps on this week, just about 1 hour 30 minutes of racing distance here every week. And Richie Stanaway looking strong as well. 3rd position for him, but he's already down 8 seconds, and he's losing a bit of, let's say, I think like 2/10 per lap. Both the top runners running extremely fast times here. Last lap 107.1 for Bonito, 107.2 for Spindle, and 108.1 for Stanaway. So he's also probably got some lap traffic there. Simon Cattell 107.5. It looks like Spindle and Bonito are pretty much in another world right now.
And we're just checking, Miguel Martin, he's sat in the 12th position trying to make the move on Jason Lovett as they come down into turn number 1. Martin is going to complete the pass. Surely he'll have the line into turn number 1. Don't cut those cones too early. He manages to sweep across the racing line. Move Martin up now into the 11th position. And Jason Lovett, we talked about how we thought he was going to be the guy who would work the draft better than anyone else. Well, he's kind of struggling right now down that long straightaway. And I'm just having a look. I love it, in fact. He's not got any damage to his race car, but looking as though he is struggling quite a bit here today. Let's say Martin now up into the 11th position. He started this race down in the 24th spot. So he's managed to gain himself 13 positions in this race so far. By far the biggest mover of the day. Having a look at Jesper Pedersen, he's trying to hold down Bial Cordace. He's been able to get around Peter Bitso to move himself up into the 9th position. And he's closing Cordace down at the rate of about 3/10 of a second on the racetrack. Cordace's lap time as they come past the line is a 1 minute 8.2. Compare that to a 1 minute 7.5 for Jesper Pedersen. He is charging now as they're working away back down into turn number 1. At the same time, Timo Evenen managing to get past Dave Geelink, moving himself up now into the top 5.
Yeah, and it's a team battle, so it looks like Evonen is the faster car on track. And of course, when you're teammates, you might want to let the faster guy just go. And that's what Dave Gilling has done. So Team Inex is currently occupying the spots 4 to 8. And of course, also the race lead with Enzo Bonito there. 2.7 seconds, so he's extending the lead by about 1 to 2/10 per lap. Starting lap 18 right now, Enzo Bonito, the Italian from Inex Racing, is your race leader.
Indeed, and Enzo Bonito's got himself now a 2.9 second gap over Emil Spindel as they're working on lap number 18 of 73 here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Bonito, he's working himself now down into turn number 4. He's got a spinning car ahead of him. Hopefully he'll pass him as they come down into turn number 5. That was, Samuel Lee Burr there in the Radical Steel Series machine. And he was down in the 21st position as it was. As he was coming out of turn number 4, it just looked as though that car clipped the car's an entry, spun it around, and he was very nice there to just keep that car on the grass. Yes, he lost himself a couple of extra positions, but he had the leader coming up thick and fast behind him.
Meanwhile, Simon Cattell, I wonder if you wanted to say that, but I think Simon Cattell is gaining on Richie Stanaway. He's closed the gap to Stanaway to about 2 seconds, so it looks very strong for Simon Cattell here. However, Richie Stanaway, who put the car in 4th position, had a good run in the qualifying, good time, but currently running in 3rd, doesn't seem to can convert this on the race speed. And also Teemu Ivo on a very strong lap. He's been past Dave Geeling and right away broke 107.3 for the Finn here. And that is almost the pace the leaders are running. Emil Spindler 0.4. And of course with the lap traffic only 108 for Bonito. And well, we're running close to the first pit stop. And I think now it's on to who has conserved the tires most and who's able to squeeze the last bit of grip out of these tires before the pit stop.
Indeed, pit entry here is by far probably the easiest pit entry when you consider the fact, you just run on the access road and then brake to 55 miles an hour. Simple. Exit, however, we need to talk about that because you kind of come out directly into the racing line as you come down into turn number 1. And we've seen before at Indy that, accidents can very easily happen if these drivers don't pay attention. I'm just having a look actually. Stanaway looking as though he's catching that lap traffic of Ryan Terpstra, and he's got DJ Fieler behind him, and Simon Cattell looking as though he's going to be able to use that drive to his advantage on Modgar DJ Fieler as they come now down into turn number 13 on the racetrack. The gap between Cattell and Stanaway was as close to 2 seconds as you could get as they came past the line last time by. Let's see what it is as they come past, put their 19th lap in the books, and it is up just a little bit by the look of it. And it looks as though Stanaway is pulling that gap back out there, using the traffic to his advantage. Spindell, however, is kind of regulating that gap in the battle for the first position. He's about 2.5 seconds behind Enzo Benito. And we haven't really seen Spindell pushing those tyres too hard in that second position. I'm wondering, as I say, Justin Pedersen is up now into the 8th position, passing Yauko Dasso. So Pedersen's still on the move. I'm wondering, Marius, whether or not Spindell is trying to go on a different strategy to Benito ahead of him.
Yeah, he might be, and it could be the thing really, raising the odds for Emil Spindler. And we're still expecting both of them into the pits. Lap 20 currently finished. Expecting the first pit stops to be, let's say, lap 23, 24 here. As Samuel Libert, 21st, currently comes into the pits, but also he had a troubled race. It's hard to say really what the guys will do. The times are really similar, so you can't really predict when everyone is going to pit. However, it has been proven that a later pit stop is most of the time the better choice. So I believe in the situation Bonito is in, he might be squeezing the last bit of fuel out of the tank and just try to put the stop as late as he can. Then do a short middle stint, maybe to extend the lead, and then he has the time to maybe even make a little mistake, or he can relax these extra 5% not to be completely on the limit.
I'm going to have to take you, Jason Lovett, 3 wide down into turn number 1, and it's closer towards you could possibly get there. He's got David Ecorb and Xavier Bussot and Marcus Caton all around him, but it looks as though that Jason Lovett is ready to gain himself a couple of positions on the racetrack, and that was a bold mover all the way down on the attenuator of the racetrack there, as close to the wall as you could get.
Yeah, and I wonder if David Cobb got an off-track or even a slowdown there into the first turn. We've been discussing that, and we'll probably get that in a few more circumstances in the race. If you run too closely to the cones, or even over the cones on the right side, of course they do not trigger a contact, but if you run through them, they trigger a slowdown if you do that too much. And I think David Cobb has been right at the edge, but he hasn't slowed down yet, so probably he has been lucky. But I believe it is going to be a critical moment for a few drivers here to be consistent into the turn 1. And we've been talking about fatigue, especially in the Motegi race, and I think if that settles in, off-tracks and slowdowns will be starting to become a matter.
And it looks as though that, that was a bold pass, and the draft does work here. Turn number 1 is the best pass to make a move on the racetrack, and see David DeCorbs there pulling right up to the rear of Lover as they come back down into turn number 1. This is about for the 13th and 14th position on the racetrack. Ahead of them, you've got Brizzo trying to close down Hal Cordasso. This is about for the 9th position on the racetrack. Cordasso, as I said, he lost that position to Jesper Pedersen about 3 laps ago now, moving Pedersen up into the 8th position. He's trying to close down PJ Sturgios. Having a look at the lap time, very closely matched at the moment, but PJ Sturgios is a full 6 seconds ahead of Jesper Pedersen, who in turn is trying to close down Dave Geeling in the battle for the 6th position. And having a look at it, it looks as though that Sturgios is just slowly reeling in Dave Geeling there in that battle for 6th. And as they come down into turn number 1, once again, last time by it was PJ Sturgis, a 1 minute 8.103. Compare that to 1 minute 7.8 for Gabe Geelink. So Geelink opened the gap up a little bit there. It is currently 2.1 seconds on the racetrack. Having a look there, Enzo Benito, he's pulled that gap up now to 3.1 seconds. He's currently working on a lap number 23. We expect these drivers, if they're going to make a 2-stop race out of this, to come down pit road in the next couple of laps. Keeping an eye on the entrance towards pit road, and Enzo Benito looking as though he's staying out. He was very close though. It looks like he's trying to dummy, spin down into pit road there. He was as close as he could get to the grass as they came into turn at number 13. Having a look to see if anyone is committing to pit road at this time by, no one has. And perhaps these drivers are doing something a little bit different here. Perhaps they've all decided at the last minute to go to the one-stop race.
Yeah. Sorry, and I wonder how much that is really going to affect them. So we're really approaching the pit stop zone right now. No one of the top runners into the pits so far, and I'm not sure. I mean, Ryan Webster has a point with the guys going for a one stop here. I just can't believe that yet. So it might not work, but some of the drivers might go for it. And judging by the times, at least the top runners are on a similar strategy, and I still believe it is the 2-stop.
Well, the easiest to have a look at is to have a look at the tyre drop-off. And having a look at, say, lap 3 of Benito's race, he did a 1 minute 7.3. He's doing a 1 minute 7.2 at the moment, so he's not having that huge tyre drop-off that you'd expect these drivers to dash the pit road with. So Benito definitely out front is, regulating his tyres just enough so he's being able to keep the life out of him. He's now put 24 laps on the book, working around Paul Ilbrink as they come down into turn number 1. And you'd only want to come down pit road if your tyres fall apart, and you've really got to gain about, I think it's 26 seconds, the time it will take to make a pit stop from pit into pit out, and that's the time that you're going to have to make on the racetrack if you go for a 2-stop strategy. So having a look further back through the field, and we've got ourselves a battle to say this is for 4th and 5th position on the racetrack. Sam Cattell has got 2 lapped cars between himself and Timo Even, and they're separated by 2.1 seconds on the racetrack. Simon Cattell's last lap time of 1 minute 7.8, and you compare that to Timo Even at 1 minute 7.5. However, as I say, Even has got those 2 slower cars ahead of him, and it's giving him just a little bit of difficulties. He might be able to get close to one of them as they come down the Holman straightaway, but Even, it looks like he's going to catch him at the worst possible time, and that is Thiago Alfaro, Jan Pino between him, and they are really going to hold him up just a couple of attempts as they come now down into turn at number 11 once again. And Enzo Benito, I have to say, Enzo Benito is on pit road at the conclusion of lap number 25. Emil Spindle comes down at the same time. Richie Stanaway stays out, so he is going to lead a lap here at the speedway, but Benito onto pit road. We'll keep an eye out on him now as he's coming all the way down this long pit road. 55 miles an hour is the pit road speed as he now pulls the car down into his pit box, and he's going to get 4 fresh tyres. He's going to fill up with fuel as well. Emma Spindle doing the same. Of course, he came in 2.7 seconds behind the race leader, and he will come out behind. But I tell you what, Spindle there, a little bit slow off the jacks, Marius. And perhaps Spindle putting in a couple of extra laps worth of fuel there.
Yeah, and it might be a good point there. I mean, Enzo Benito is out of the pit. Spindle could observe what he's doing. He could observe the lap times, and he's obviously got one of his crew members helping him with that. And now it's a question when Richie Stanaway is coming in. He has been a bit slower, so I'm not really sure if you could suspect that he's on a one-stop strategy. I don't think he's been too slow for that, so I think Stanaway will be in the pit, and yes, he is coming down pit road this lap by. And now it's a question, Simon Cattell still stays out, and Cattell has been chasing down Stanaway in the last couple of laps, so Stanaway might be in trouble if Cattell stays out 1 or 2 laps longer. If he can get these laps in clean, it doesn't look like he has much traffic, but now some cars are leaving the pits. Xavier Bustom's Marcus Ketten right in front of Simon Cattell, and that could just ruin his strategy right away, as Stanaway is almost coming to a standstill in the pits.
So as you called him there, Richie Stanawell coming down into pit road. He's slowing that car down now. So he started this race solidly in the 4th position, was running in 3rd before this sequence of pit stops. He's getting 4 fresh tyres, topping up with race gas as well. And nice stop for him as he comes back out. 55-mile speed limit until you get to those green cones. You'll see him now try and find a way to move to the left-hand side of the racetrack. He's got 2 cars ahead of him, but it looks as though that Stanaway is out and clear. He's got David Decourt and Jason Lovett ahead of him, but about 2-3 seconds on the racetrack between them. Stanaway there nicely out. Checking in, however, on Cattell. He is currently a race leader as he's coming now down into turn number 13, and he stays out once again. So Cattell is going to lead another lap here at the Speedway in the 57 machine. He's got himself Marcus Caton and Paul Ilbrink ahead of him on the racetrack, but about 4 seconds ahead. So Simon Cattell, he's your race leader. He's got himself a gap now to Richie Stanaway, and he's really got a push now for these next couple of laps, Cattell, if he's going to try and pass Stanaway in this sequence of pit stops.
Yeah, and we're really suspecting here if Simon Cattell is on a one-stop strategy, and that would be a big hit even for the top runners here. I'm really surprised there. I mean, Enzo Bonito is currently 18 seconds behind Cattell, who's of course in the lead right now. Emil Spindle 23 seconds down, and if Cattell can really stretch this fuel to, let's say, about lap 35, 36 maybe, then he's just gonna make one stop in the entire race. And he has 18 seconds to defend, and so far it is looking very good. He's on a very strong pace here, but I'm still a bit skeptical if he's really going for one stop here. So we're going to keep an eye on Simon Cattell once again as he's about to come by pit road, and the question is, will he pit?
He's coming
in. Yes, it is looking no one stop for Simon Cattell here, and that should clarify it. Still though, Richie Stanaway 2 laps earlier he's been in, and Cattell had a good run these last 2 laps. He's had a bit of traffic, but still 107.7 and 0.9, and it could be enough to at least close the gap to Stanaway a little bit.
Yeah, PJ Sturgis, he overshot his pit box and making his pit stop, lost himself about 2 seconds on the racetrack. Keeping an eye on Simon Cattell down to 55 miles an hour to make his first pit stop of the day. We'll see where Richie Stanaway is on the racetrack as Cattell overshoots his pit box there. That's going to cost him dearly. He cost him about 3 seconds on the racetrack. Stanaway is passing the yard of bricks now, and it looks as though he's not only going to get the position back there, Stanaway. Cattell is very slow there into his pit box. He overshot it, slowing the way out as well. And Cattell is now going to have to defend, seeing whether or not Evelyn gets past. Indeed, he does. And Cattell lost out badly there. Timo Evelyn gains the position.
Yeah, and Timo Evelyn, nevertheless, he's been looking very strong. 107.4 and 0.6, and that's been right out of the pits. And his fastest lap of the race only has been 100 quicker than the last 2 laps he did. So Evelyn takes over from Cattell in the pursuit for Richie Stanaway, and they've both lost a bit, especially because Cattell has lost about 3 seconds to Stanaway, but now Evelyn, being 6 seconds behind Stanaway, has taken over in the pursuit for the 5th position.
So Simon Cattell, he falls back down, we believe, into about the 5th, 6th position on the racetrack. It is Enzo Benito, once again, your race leader in the 73 car. Emil Spindle, the gap is now up to 4.3 seconds on the racetrack. Hal Cordasso is down on pit road. He was sat at 3rd position as they came past the line, but Cordasso now into his pit box. He was running in about the 8th or 9th position before the sequence of pit stops started. Nice stop for him. Very nicely onto the track, sent away very quickly as well. A little bit of wheel spin, but nicely now back up to that 55 mile an hour speed limit. Having a look to the drivers around him, Jesper Pedersen is going to come out. He will take that 8th position, and it looks his way. Cordasso is going to come out, I believe, in about 10th spot. Indeed, he does. He comes back out into the 10th position there. And you see Pierre Abietto just about a second and a half ahead of him on the racetrack. So it is Benito from Spindell, from Cordasso, from Stanaway, from Evenham. They all top 5 with 30 laps scored complete at the line. Having a look at Dave Gielink on the racetrack for the time being. He is back behind now. Simon Cattell is about for the 6th and 7th positions on the racetrack. And Dave Gielink is still looking strong here today in that NX Racing car. His last lap time at 1:07.7, and very consistent for that 41 car as well. And we've really seen him just pounding out the laps here today.
Yeah, he's looking strong. Good race here. He's had a good race at Motegi, and it really looks like the guys from iRacing have done their job. A good setup here. Of course, mainly shown by Enzo Bonito here, leading the race still 4.4 seconds to Emil Spindler. Teemu Ibonen, however, 4th position for him. Simon Cattell in 5th. Dave Geeling in 6th, and still the top 4 runners, the 4 runners here of iRacing in the train. 7th position, PJ Sturgis, and all these 4 are iRacing drivers, and they are looking very strong today.
Indeed, and Benito out front in that 73 car, so the gap is now 4.5 seconds over Emil Spindel in the battle for the first position. To run through the rest of your top 10, it is Dave Geeling in 6th, PJ Sturgis in 7th, Jesper Pedersen in 8th, Pierre Rizzo in 9th, and Yao Cordasso rounding out your top 10. Miguel Martin in 11th, Andrea Boldi in 12th, David de Klobbs in 13th. A difficult day for him, with Jason Lover in 14th. Despite all of the big passes we've seen him made, he's only down in the 14th position. And Marcus Caton rounding out your top 15. Having a look at Miguel Martin.
Just a sec, sorry, Will. And Enzo Bonito has indeed got a black flag there. He had the slowdown, and I wonder where he got that. And I believe it has been somewhere in the infield. I'm not sure if it has been in turn 1, because he's actually written BF in the chat, which means black flag, of course. And that has cost him about 2 seconds, and Spindle is he's got him inside again. It's just like after a few laps, Emil Spindle right ahead, right behind Enzo Bonito, just about 2 seconds behind him.
Yeah, I'm having a look at replay, and it was down into turn number 1. It was those cones, and he did run 2 wheels on the inside of the cones. In fact, over half the car was there. He really had to slow it down there on the exit of turn number 2. So Enzo Bonito, he's back, still circulating on the racetrack, but Emil Spindel, that gap, we'll have a look to see just how much it cost him as they come past the yard of bricks once again to put 32 laps in the books, and the gap is now down to 2.4 seconds, so an entire 2 seconds lost there in the space of 1 lap there for Enzo Bonito, and he's having to work his way through traffic at the moment. So to go back to what I was saying beforehand, Miguel Martin is by far the biggest mover of the race today. He started his race in the 24th position, currently working in the 11th spot. He's got himself a 4-second gap to Hal Cordasso ahead of him. However, he is 8 seconds clear of Andrea Boldi in the battle for the 11th position. And Marius Martin has had a great race today, and he's looking, so if any of these drivers ahead of him have a bad pit stop, he could find himself looking at the top 10.
Yeah, and the good thing with Miguel Martin, right, is he's got 5 seconds to Joao Cardoso to the top 10, and he's got 8 seconds to Andrea Baldi, who's also got a good race here in 12th position. So he's more or less running free here, and, well, that's what a driver really expects. I mean, you're running free, you're not in the dirty air of your driver ahead, you're not really in the position where you need to defend much. So Miguel Martin can just drive free here and try to make up some time, while Joao Cardoso is in reach to Pierre Orbizzo and probably soon also to Jesper Pedersen, where he is going to lose some time in the infield. And, well, it is quite some time till the second pit stop, and by then probably Miguel Martin not just made up some seconds, but also closed the 5-second gap to Joao Cardoso and maybe even made it into the top 10.
And I'm having a look at Enzo Bonito as well. And, that moment down to turn number 1, he did have a lap car ahead of him. And it just looks as though he's trying to overcompensate down into turn number 1 after a long straightaway. The extra speed that he had, I think he was just trying to turn that car a little bit more than he expected it to, which caused him to get that slowdown penalty. But is the pressure starting to get to Benito here a little bit? I mean, he's led pretty much every lap here today, but Spindel not looking as though he's disappearing too much from view. And we'll try and get Marius back in a minute. Meanwhile, we're having a look at Dave Geeling on board of him at the moment. He is sat down in the 6th position in that 41 car, back onto the banking as he's now coming down into turn number 12. You see him there. He'll run it up now onto the banking after the banking kind of slows away a little bit. Now turn 13, you see him hugging pretty much the entire right-hand side of the car below the white line there. The fastest way to take that corner, 191 miles an hour as it comes out. Start finish line 192 now, and you can see he's a full 3 miles an hour faster, and that's the effect of the draft here today, at least. Of course, Geeling, it did sound as though he was hitting the rev limiter as he came down into turn number 1, but he's closing that gap now down to Simon Cattell. It's about 1.5 seconds on the racetrack And Dave Geeling is having a very strong second stint here.
Yeah, and not only second stint has been strong, it looks like he's really got stronger and stronger in the first stint already, then let his teammate Teemu Ivonen pass here as he's been a bit quicker, and now Geeling is just following Simon Cattell here, and judging on the lap times, Peter Sturgis right behind him, the last of this 4-car iRacing train, is the only one which can't really go that high of a speed, so yeah, Stanaway has caught up with the speed, so it's not exactly as Teemu Ivonen will catch up to him any minute. However, Simon Cattell and Dave Geeling run the same pace than Ivonen, and I think, yeah, they are in a team, and they are all probably friends together. They all know themselves since a couple of years, and it ends at a point where the race is probably about to finish, and these guys are fighting for the top 5 in the Pro Series Championship probably, and it's so much points to make up today with Filho out, with Narumi out, with Usiakola and Del Orco, and also Libert out. And it's just going to end, and they will probably start fighting like regular drivers here and forget about that they're in one team.
Indeed, I'm having a look at the championship standings, and of course these are all provisional and it all stands on how these drivers will finish the race. But Enzo Benito, gaining 50 points in this race, will put himself right back up into the championship picture, as will Emil Spindell. Aleski Usiakola, if he finishes this race where he is, well, of course he'll finish this race where he is, will end up with, I think, about a 2 to 3 point gap for that race, for that championship lead, and it's all just blown itself wide open today. And Indianapolis has proven to be the game changer. For drivers like Benito, Spindell, and Stanaway for Evenham, this is probably their best chance so far this season to gain some big points. I had to go back to what I was saying earlier. I know we had some communication issues, but Benito, out front, we saw that moment down into turn number 1. Do you think the pressure's starting to get to him just a little bit?
Yeah, and well, we're not exactly talking about fatigue, but half of the race is over. The drivers have started the 37th lap, and that's just crossing the halfway mark here. And well, they are all pretty much in the zone so far. Emil Spindel 3 seconds off the lead, and then we've got the big gap to Richie Stanaway, so it's not exactly as close as it has been, but well, we've got the same kind of mid-pack situation, and we've predicted that from the qualifying. So Teemu Ivonen, Simon Cattell, Dave Geeling, PJ Sturgis, Jesper Peterson, Pierre Ubitsu, and also Joao Cardoso, who is completing the top 10, are still looking to get the top 5 finish here. Not exactly that far off, and with one pit stop to go and half of the race, it's nowhere near decided.
Yeah, and if you have a look at that battle from 4th place, Teemu Ivonen is only 6 seconds ahead of PJ Sturgis in 7th, and Sturgis himself is only about 1.5 seconds ahead of Jesper Pedersen in 8th. So any of these drivers make a mistake on pit entry or have to deal with a penalty down into turn number 1, then, you know, that battle for the top 5 could be thrown wide open. Let's talk about Teemu Ivonen though. I mean, he started this race a little bit further down the field as well. He started in the 17th position, now working his way in the 4th position on the race, and from nowhere, Ivanen's had a great drive here today.
Yeah, 4th position him. He had a good race on Motegi. We had him in the on the camera quite often, but he's just been stuck, and yeah, we've been suspecting that this will be a kind of boring race and not exactly that interesting, just as Motegi has been. So not just that much overtakes, but by the looks of it, this race is fairly interesting, and also the guys are overtaking each other nearly every lap. And down the first corner, it just looked like with some kind of different downforce settings, a bit more wing, a bit more rear wicker, the cars are just having different straight line speeds, and there will be possibilities to overtake, and we've seen that quite often here.
I'm checking in on David Korps, and this is the battle for the 12th and 13th positions on the racetrack. David Korps looking very close that last time by down into turn number 1. Korps is now trying to get a good run as they come in here through the kind of Mickey Mouse chicane section of the racetrack, turns 9 and 10, and now into turn number 11 once again. De Korps needs a good run out of here. He's been very close down into turn number 1. In fact, a big wiggle for De Korps there. That's going to put his momentum off just a little bit as he came out of turn number 12. But De Korps charging down Andrea Boldi in that battle for the 12th position. Boldi, good defensive driving by the 22 car for the time being. As you see there, just this way, that Boldi's trying to break away that draft as well, moving all the way down to the inside. De Korps did exactly the same thing, and then Boldi's like, okay, I'm going to have to go to the outside line, because of course, you can only make one move in these cars. And then having a look at DeCorps as they come now into turn number 5 once again. He's looking as though if he's going to make a pass, he's going to have to do it down into turn number 1. He's been very close here through turn 6, 7 and 8 respectively, but not being able to make a pass at the end of the Holman straightaway. We'll see what kind of a run he gets this time by, as Boldy a little bit sideways as they come out of turn number 7. But DeCorps, you say, he's looking strong in that Orion Racing machine. The number 58 car trying to put the pressure on Boldy. However, they have got lap traffic ahead of him as they come now. They've got Mogar DG Philo who's going to go down a lap to these drivers. Boldy will get the draft a little bit here on this straightaway, but DeCorps again looking as though he's kind of in that dirty air, that 4 or 5 tenths from the second gap. Marius, he's got to try and nail turns 9, 10 and 11 if he's going to have a chance of, you know, getting right up to the rear of Boldy and making that pass down into turn number 1.
Yeah, he absolutely has to, and not just to think of that, he's been fixing the damage he had from the first stint, but he hasn't really had the smoothest start of the race, so a pretty rough start for David DeCorps here. He's had the crash in the first turn, been upside down and quickly flipped over, so no further incident there, but he's been coming from all the way back off the grid in starting 7th, so 13th position is a bit disappointing, and he's just looking to get past Andrea Baldi relatively quickly. Obviously he has the ability to go quicker, but yeah, it's not that easy to overtake still. It's probably easier than on Motegi. Still, he is in a struggle, and he has to nail the last turns out of the oval and then get the maximum amount of slipstream. And probably this time by Baldi with the slight mistake here in the hairpins, and it could just be enough. He's got a good exit here, and it could be enough to at least try the dive bomb down turn 1. He really has to make the move if he wants to get into clean air, and Miguel Martin is already just about 10 seconds ahead. So from 12th to 11th, it's almost an impossible distance till the end of the race. Andrea Baldi doing the S lines here on the straight, trying to avoid Davide DeCorps in slipstream, and once again Davide DeCorps in slipstream here. He's trying it, but it's not enough. It's just not enough out of the final turn, and he can't really make this move.
And Boldy there, good defensive driving as I say in that CSC Azure 22 machine as they're working their way down to turn number 5. Once again, check back in on your race leader. It is still Enzo Benito out front now by 3.7 seconds over Emil Spindel. So after that penalty, that slowdown penalty there for Enzo Benito into turn number 1, about 10 laps to go, he's been able now to build up that gap once again to the position where it is now, 3.7 seconds. There's a 10-second gap, however, from the rear of Spindel to Richie Stanaway in the 72 car, and Stanaway still got himself a nice 7-second cushion, however, to Timo Ivonen, and we could be looking at Stanaway getting his first podium in this year's Pro Series campaign.
Yeah, and Stanaway only has to bring this one home pretty much. We're not really in the last stages of the race. We've still got 30 laps to go, but Stanaway has 7 seconds to the rear to Timo Ivonen, and currently Ivonen is rather under pressure by his teammates from the rear, and he's really looking to break free and attack Stanaway. So Stanaway looking to be relatively clean here, not much traffic around him, 10 seconds to second position Emil Spindel, and as long as they don't start serious fighting at the top, which I don't think at the current moment, Stanaway has this one pretty much in the bag, but we've seen it with, I believe it has been, yeah, Yudai Narumi, who's put the car into the wall out of the last turn onto the oval. So you still have to stay focused, you can't let fatigue settle in, and you have to bring this one home without making any mistakes. 7 seconds might sound much as this, but as soon as you start making mistakes, they start disappearing. And yeah, once you find a car in your slipstream, it's gone right away.
You might have saw it on your screens there, and it is once again those big drafting maneuvers down into turn number 1. Jason Lovett on the outside there of Christian Lorente, and it looks like Lorente on the inside line. Lovett down on the outside was able to make the pass, but then Lorente came back into turn number 2, and this is the Nexus Esports car there of Lorente managing to take the position away as they came down into turn number 4. Christian Lorente now up into the 14th spot. A difficult day now for Jason Lovett. He started this race, say, down in the 23rd position, managed to work his way all the way up into the 11th position at one point to get sideways at one point there. But Christian Lorente on the move now. He started this race in 16th, now up into the 14th position. Checking back in this battle for 4th and 5th positions on the racetrack, Timo Ivonen and Simon Cassell. The gap is about 1.4 seconds on the racetrack. And having a look at Timo Ivonen, his last lap were 1 minute 7.608. You compare that to Cattell, a 1 minute 7.743, very closely matched on the racetrack, and Evenham has got a world of pressure now from Simon Cattell in that 57 car. And of course, Sam Cattell's the driver. He had that, well, I think he lost about 3 seconds on pit road there by overshooting his pit box, and he's trying to make up for lost ground at the moment.
Yeah, and it's gonna really not exactly worry him, but I think he's just gonna be a bit angry that that happened. It's so easy to overshoot your pit box, and it's so easy to lose a whole lot of time there. And with Simon Cattell being right behind Teemu Ivonen there, it's probably good for Ivonen. So by the looks of the lap times, Cattell is pushing Ivonen to faster and faster lap times, and well, they're not exactly gaining a lot on Stanaway, but Stanaway in the last lap has lost about 1.5 tenths, and with 30 laps to go and this going on, it could be enough to at least close the gap a bit. And if Stanaway is under the pressure in the second pit stop, and he might be in the position of overshooting his pit box, or making another mistake on pit entry, yeah, it's not exactly much. I mean, 5 seconds tends to go into 2 seconds if that happens, and with 2 seconds you get the slipstream. And if you have the slipstream, we've seen that at Motegi, you're not exactly to lose it, and Stanaway hasn't got this third place safe then.
And we're working on lap number 45 now of 73. Enzo Benito is still your race leader. We expect pit stops, the second round of pit stops to start in the next 3 or 4 laps time. Having a look at Enzo Benito as he's coming onto turn number 12. Will he make the trip onto pit road? He keeps on doing this. He keeps on trying to confuse me by running all the way down to the grass until the very last second. He's got some lap traffic ahead of him, but Enzo Benito, as he comes past the line once again, it is this time a 1 minute 7.213, building up that gap now to 3.5 seconds over Emil Spindell. This is the battle for the first and second positions on the racetrack. For Benito, really, he just needs to make sure he hits his second pit stop perfectly. But it's been a faultless race with the exception of that turn 1 incident for him.
Yeah, it is, and for Emil Spindel. He's had a great start once again. He came from 6th in the Motegi race, and he scored the 4th position as well, due to a good start from Emil Spindel there. He started 3rd here, and after Moga missed the start a bit, which surprised us, and got tangled up with Alexiou Siakola in turn 2. Emil Spindel quickly got the 2nd position and now is 3.5 seconds down the lead here. That isn't much, but still he's got the 10-second gap to Richie Stanaway in 3rd. So he's all settled to start the attack here at Enzo Benito. 51 minutes, 10 seconds done of the race. We're not exactly close to the 1 hour mark, but it might be time for a short ad break here, and we'll be back in a couple of seconds here with the 2nd pit stop of the race. And the question, will Enzo Benito make the lead stick, or will Emil Spindel be able to close down the leader and maybe even start an attack? So we'll be right back here at Indianapolis.
Closing down on second round of pit stops here in the 3rd round of the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing, presented to you by GlacierTV. Enzo Benito is still your race leader. Emil Spindel about 4 seconds down behind him as they're working away on lap number 48 of 73 here. Keep an eye on Enzo Benito to see whether he's going to make that trip down towards pit road this time by. He indeed stays out so, Benito still doing another lap on the racetrack, so we expect these drivers to come down to pit road at some point very, very soon. Don't forget, of course, Spindell, we think that he put in an extra couple of laps of fuel compared to Benito. Stanaway, he went longer on that first round of pit stops compared to both Spindell and Benito, and it was Simon Cattell who went the longest. He's currently sat in the 5th position. He went the longest, but lost out that 4th position by making that mistake on pit road, which meant he had to lose about 2.5 seconds there by making that car having to reverse back into his pit box. To run through your retirees in this race, down into turn number 1, on the first lap of the race we had Max Olko and SCUC Akula both involved in incident. We have Vasily Zaitov out of the race, Yudan Narumi out of the race, Samuel Liebert out of the race, as is Paul Ilbrink and Fabio DeCarlo. Modgardici Filo is currently scored as 3 laps down, and Alexander Busov is your latest retiree out of the race here today. Ticking back in on Enzo Benitez, he's working his way down into turn number 12 once again, and I have to say, it really does annoy me when he runs that close down to the grass as he comes out into turn number 13. He stays out onto the racetrack, as does Spindell, as does Stanaway by the look of it. Stanaway working his way down into turn number 12 now. He's making that trip back to Banking, so he's going to stay out for another lap as well. We've got ourselves less than 25 laps left to go in this race, and Marius' second pit stop is going to be crucial.
It is, and I'm especially anxious to see what's happening between Teemu Ivonen and Simon Cattell, because I think as a team they might know the pit strategy of each other, and yeah, if for example Teemu Ivonen were to pit earlier and Simon Cattell had the longer middle stint and were to pit later, he has been out since lap 29, and he's been one of the guys pitting relatively late, so it's quite like that he is going to have the late pit stop here, and by being 1 second behind his teammate, it might be enough to leapfrog him. So Teemu Ivonen really has to put down some laps right now. He's been in lap 26 here, so
Benito into pit road, sorry, Benito into pit road. We've had Britzo down to pit road, Boldy's onto pit road as well. So Enzo Benito from the first position is now on to pit road, down to 55 miles an hour once again for him. And Marius, this is a critical stop now for him.
It is, and also Emil Spindle is in last time by 5.2 seconds gap between them. The is it going to be the Italian Enzo Bonito or the Swedish, I believe? Is he Swedish? I think he's Swedish. I'm always thinking if he's Finnish or Swedish. I'll just settle with Swedish, beat me up if he isn't. Emil Spindle, is he going to take the first position of this pit stop? It doesn't look like Bonito made a mistake here. So Bonito is out already, he's revving up 17k RPM on the engine. Emil Spindle also on a good stop, so now let's hope they've both got sufficient fuel to end this race here. No one coming by, Joao Cardoso right behind Emil Spindle right there. So nothing really happened. The gap stays about the same, 5.8 seconds, and thanks to Joni that he's got the pit time today. He's at the stopwatch, 5.5 seconds pit stop for both. That is a brilliant time there and no place difference for any one of them. However, Teemu Ivonen, Dave Geeling and PJ Sturgis all have been in the pit road, so Simon Cattell, as we've expected, stays out longer, and this could be a crucial moment for the Team Inex four-way party there from 4th to 7th. If Simon Cattell were to pit this lap or even one lap later, and yes, he stays out, he's posting good lap times right now as Richie Stanaway pits in, it might be enough to get Teemu Ivonen there. And we said that, well, they are only 7 seconds, now 6.5 seconds away from Stanaway. And yeah, we're keeping an eye on Stanaway on the pit stop, but it's just a question. Simon Cattell will probably get Teemu Ivonen, and then it's the next question. If Stanaway cocks up this pit stop, they might as well get Stanaway, or at least put pressure on him.
And I'd like to apologise there for Marius' language, of course, but Stanaway into his pit box. He's going to get 4 tyres and top up with race gas once again as he comes out of pit road, 55 miles an hour for Stanaway, and he's going to try and get back onto the racetrack. He's got traffic behind him, but he's going to look and say he's just getting out ahead there of a couple of drivers, but he's got Miguel Martin ahead of him by about a second on the racetrack. Al Pino also back out onto the racetrack. Wes Richards currently working in the 19th position as well, just a couple of seconds behind in the CST Azura machine. But it is Simon Cattell, currently a race leader. We're having a look at him. His tyres, though, looking as though they are falling apart on that 57 machine. He stays out for yet another lap. Cattell really driving that car. He made a mistake last pit stop. Now he's got to try and make sure he gets some good laps in on the last couple of laps before he makes his second and final pit stop of the day. Simon Cattell last time by at 1 minute 7.387. That car looking as though it's wicked loose, but still managing, Marius, to cut out the lap times.
Yeah, meanwhile, Jason Litt, Marcus Ketten and Thiago Alfao down pit road, and nevertheless, still keeping an eye on Simon Cattell. Brilliant lap times in the last couple of laps. Both 107.3, and the fastest lap of the race for him only has been a 297. So he's right at the peak of the tires, right at the peak of the possible car performance. In fact, there, most of the drivers now coming down pit road as well. Davide Korps and Christian Lorente here. So now the question is, Simon Cattell. It might be time this time by. It's just looking like this could be the time, judging on the lap times and judging on when he pitted for the first time. So will he come come down pit road this time by?
Yes.
Taking a look, I would also say yes. Taking a look at Timo Ivonen in the first and second sector right away. So it could be enough gap, and Simon Cattell putting the car a bit sideways there under pit entry. I hope that wasn't too late. It definitely was a pit entry nailed right down the line, and I believe he's really going to jump his teammate there.
Yeah, I'm just having a look back in. He was so close to speeding on pit road there. I'm having a look to see if he stays in the pit box any longer. But Simon Cattell there, he's been difficult on his first pit stop. The second time by, he has to overshoot again. This is going to cost him the second time here today. Simon Cattell has had a tremendously difficult time in pit road, and he's back out onto the racetrack once again. He manages to now pit in, best pit in I've actually seen all day here today, a 1 minute 16 pit in lap. On pit road itself, however, he's just not had it going for him.
Yeah, and it's still enough. It is still enough to stay ahead or go ahead of Timo Ivonen and his teammate. So he's actually made up about 2 seconds with a failed pit stall, actually stopping too late, overshooting your pit stop, costing valuable time, had to go into reverse back, and that is costing 2-3 seconds easily. Nevertheless, Timo Ivonen had to refuel for 3 laps more. Of course, Simon Cattell then for 3 laps less, and that still benefits Simon Cattell here with the soon-to-be 4th position, as Joao Cardoso is the last one of the top runners to pit right now. Miguel Martin has just been in, and the order will be restored with Enzo Bonito leading the grid, Emil Spindel still being in second.
But Cattell's off, so I need to interrupt you there. Cattell took turn number 11 way too deeply. He tried to run on the kind of the concrete on the inside of the corner, and he's going to lose a lot of time there. And I was just having a look at his lap times. He was actually faster than anyone else on that second round of pit stops was Cattell, but it looks as though Dave Geelink has just gotten ahead of him there, and Simon Cattell loses out there with a big, bad manoeuvre down into turn number 11.
Yeah, and Cattell has him going off throttle here on the straight. He's not attacking his teammate Dave Geeling there. So the INX train is closer together than ever before, close by PJ Sturgis, and they may not go slower because right behind them is Jasper Pedersen. He's only down by 2 seconds to PJ Sturgis, and if he starts getting the slipstream from Sturgis, he will start to get the slipstream from Cattell, from Geeling, and eventually also from Ivonen. So this is not over. Timo Ivonen definitely hasn't got the 4th position there, as Jasper Peterson will get the slipstream eventually if these guys are not starting to work together here. Cattell staying behind Geeling. I wonder if that's such a good idea. Cattell really has seemed to be quicker than Geeling here, so I wonder how long it will take until he gets past. But so far, Ivonen is the only one to break free from that pack.
Yeah, and have a look at Yao Gasser as well. He's running in the 65 car. He has made his second pit stop of the day, and he is now back down in the field. And Pedasso's had a good drive, but he's fallen back down into 11th position on the racetrack. But I think when you have a look at Cattell's race today, he'll be 3 things he's been worried about. He'll be worried about, his first pit in, his second pit in, and also that big manoeuvre down into turn number 11, where he just got that car sideways there, had to take on the inside runoff area, and that cost him the position there to Dave Geeling. Looking at your race leader, Enzo Benito, he's now got himself an 8-second gap to Emil Spindel in the battle for the first spot. Spindel is, say, 8.1 seconds behind your race leader, Enzo Benito. Richie Stanaway in third, a further 10 seconds behind Emil Spindel. Having a look at Stanaway, he has got himself a 12-second gap now to Timo Ivonen. He is sat in the 4th position, and Stanaway looking more and more sure that he will get his first podium here in the iRacing.com Road Series Pro Championship for 2012. Timo Even is in 4th, Dave Geeling in 5th, Simon Cattell in 6th, PJ Sturdios in 7th, and Jesper Pedersen in 8th, with Pierre Ebritso in 9th, and Hauko Dassler, say, rounding out your top 10. But going back to Benito, he's had a dominant drive here today, and that gap up to 8 seconds. Having a look at his pit times, he's a full second faster on his pit-in lap than Emil Spindle.
Yeah, and I'm looking at what happened to Richie Stanaway just there. 1 minute 11 last lap. That's about 4 seconds off, and I've been taking a look in the replay, and Stanaway has been putting the car massively sideways out of the right-hander onto the oval. So that is exactly where Yuta Inarumi threw away his race. However, Stanaway was lucky to get the car sideways directly out of the turn and not over the curb on the exit, so Stanaway maintaining the 3rd position there. However, you said that he had 12 seconds of a gap to P4, and I think it's really starting to settle in, the fatigue coming in for Richie Stanaway. He's come by the point where he almost threw away his race, and he's been very careful right there. So his lead over Timo Ivonen in 3rd position is only just about 7.5 seconds, and that's just about as what it has been before the pit stop and before the Inex guys started to fight altogether. So yeah, it's not exactly safe for Stanaway here. However, it really looks safe for the top 2 there, as Richie Stanaway is 15 seconds down Emil Spindle. And yeah, it's been a dominant performance so far, not just from Enzo Bonito, but also from Emil Spindle, who's never really further off than 3 or 4 seconds here, but now really has to seem, yeah, he's seen that 7.5 seconds is a lot. He cannot chew more than that. And yeah, he's just settled for 2nd position.
And having a look at pit stop times, most of these drivers have done pit stops in the range of 5.1 through 5.7 seconds. However, Richie Stanaway and Simon Cattell did pit stops of 3.7 seconds each. And of course, these drivers pitted later on the first round of pit stops. But Stanaway's been able to cement his 3rd position by that. Cattell, his 2nd pit stop was drastically faster than anyone else on the racetrack. Unfortunately, he was unlucky to lose those positions there. Checking on that battle, however, for 5th and 6th positions on the racetrack, that is Dave Geeling in the 5th spot, Simon Cattell in the 6th position. And it looks as though Cattell, for the time being, is just happy to stay behind Dave Geeling. It looks like he's not been able to close much down in these last couple of laps with 15 left to go.
Yeah, and it's not just the question, will Dave Geeling hold his position or even gain, but it's also a question, will Jesper Pedersen be able to overtake PJ Sturgis? And of course that pre-requires that Pedersen has been closing down the gap here to PJ Sturgis, the number 80 F1 car here, right in the rear of PJ Sturgis, of course getting the maximum slipstream on the straights, and Pedersen is looking very strong here at the last stint, and PJ Sturgis is not exactly falling back from Simon Cattell, Dave Geeling and Timo Ivonen either. So if Jesper Pedersen really puts the hammer down right here, he's not only to make up a position to get P7, but also maybe look for P6 or P5, and even if Timo Ivonen makes a mistake, still P4 is possible, so nothing is decided around place 5 here.
Indeed, and having a look at that battle, and it looks like Timo Ivonen, for the time being, has got things going his way, but of course there's a lot that can happen here, as Enzo Benito is working currently on lap number 60 of 73 here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Of course, you're watching the 3rd round of the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing. The road to the 2013 iRacing.com Grand Prix World Championship Series has gone through 2 hurdles so far, and it was all about LSQC Yakola. However, today, Yakola was involved in an incident down into turn number 1. Modgar DG Fido was involved in an incident on the 1st lap as well. Some of the big championship names eliminated before they had the chance to cross the yard of bricks for the first time, and it's been Enzo Benito leading the way since the drop of the green flag here, and he has had himself a lead over Spindell since, lap number 1, and he's just been managing that gap. And I have to say that Benito, even if Yakola and Philo and everyone else was involved in this race, wasn't eliminated early on, I think Benito could still have won it.
Hard to say, really. I think he's definitely had the pace. I can't imagine Alexios Yakola or Mogafilo be much stronger, at least. But it would have been closer at the top, and I think they would have filled the gap between Bonito and Spindle. And then it would also be the question, will Spindle be 2nd, will Spindle be 3rd, or even will Spindle be 4th? As they just try to fill in the gap, and I mean, 8 seconds with Spindle settling down for second position could probably be about 4 seconds, and after 60 laps holding about 4 seconds, that is still a performance there. And yeah, taking a look at Motegi, these guys have been so close together, and it's once again a very close race there. It's not really that far off, but with Spindle having such a big gap to the third position here, yeah, it's just about time to settle second, and with Filho and Alexi Usiada out, second position will of course get 40 points here. First position will get you 50. So these two guys will be very happy with this result. However, Richie Stanway in third position is not exactly safe yet. However, if he will take home third, still getting 35 points here, and I think he'll be relieved to at least get the podium finish right here.
And indeed, Yakoda will get himself 3 points in this race. So that'll put him up to about 103 points in the championship standings. And when you have a look at Benito, he's going to be 1 point behind Yakola as they come out of Indy. And, you know, we talk about how Yakoda was so dominant in the first 2 races of the season. All of a sudden, this championship battle is back wide open. And these drivers fighting up, you've got drivers fighting for different things in this racetrack. You've got the drivers fighting out front, the championship glory. You've got drivers just fighting to get into the top 25. But I have to say, you know, Spindle and Benito, they've been 2 very consistent drivers, and Timo even as well. You know, he's had a good race here today after this disappointing performance at Motegi. Stanaway finally getting some form here. Dave Geenick having some good form here. I think we've got ourselves 10 drivers who realistically could be fighting for those top 5 positions come the end of the season.
Yeah, and they will be, and they are all the guys waiting for a mistake from Narumi, Usiakola and Filho. And I believe there are also some combos coming up where there could be mistakes, especially at the start. This has been a big question mark in the series, especially with the narrow turn 1. But we also have combos coming up like Phillip Island, like Silverstone, and also like Suzuka, which are not exactly the most user-friendly turn 1. So if you just put the car slightly off the line there in turn 1, we could have a similar situation like this. And we've seen it in the Pro Tours that, for example, Suzuka, it's just one of the hardest turn 1s you can make. I mean, 28, 29 cars here in the series, and all trying to go through one tiny bit of track there, going side by side, going 3 wide maybe. Yeah, it's easy that something like this can happen, and Alexi Usiakola and probably also Moga Filo have wasted their drop result on this track. And Enzo Monito not exactly made a brilliant performance in the first rounds, but with a good result at Spa and a 6th position at Motegi. He's been collecting points, and I think collecting points is what the series really comes down to. It's not down to winning, it's not down to taking 2 wins in the series, and Usiakola really has to recover from this, as 1 drop result in the series is probably wasted for him on Indy, and we've got lots of races to come, and he just has to be, yeah, mistake-free and also take the starts relatively free of trouble.
10 laps left to go for Enzo Benito in that 73 machine. The gap between himself and Emil Spindle is 8 seconds on the racetrack. And Benito's had to say a great race here today, sorry about that. But having a look at that battle between Abrizzo and João Cordasso in the battle for the 9th position, and Cordasso's been trying to close down that gap to the 60 car of Abrizzo there, but not too much avails. They've got lap traffic ahead of them, that is Wes Richards in the 43 car. Abrizzo though, his last lap time at 1 minute 7.5, and Cordasso at 1 minute 7.4. Could Cordasso try and get himself back into the 9th position?
Yeah, it's the same situation really than with the Inex train followed by Jesper Pedersen. They are all very close to each other, and for example from Ivonen to Sturgis or Pedersen it's only 4 seconds, but it's just the same situation with Fabrizio and Cardoso. They are running close to each other, but it's just not going to happen. It's not like each one of them is too aggressive or too smooth, or yeah, it's just they don't get too much slipstream on the straights, they won't get the run into turn 1, and they just won't make it happen.
And I'd like to apologise there for my random coughing fit. I'll try and make sure it doesn't happen again in this race, but as I said, your top 10 is Benito from Spindle, from Stanaway, from Ivanov, from Geeling, from Cattell, from Sturgis, from Pedersen, from Abrizzo, from Cordasso. They are your top 10 drivers. Currently 12 cars on the lead lap, with about 9 cars scored 1 lap down for the time being. And I'm just keeping an eye on that battle between Ivan and Dave Geenick, and I tell you what, Geelink has gained a ton of time these past couple of laps. That gap is now down to about a second and a half on the racetrack, and Geelink looking as though he is ready to pounce on the latter stages of this race. Geelink now working his way down into turn number 10. He's now got that tricky turn 11. You've got to get on the power as late as possible, but still do it early enough so you can get a good drive. You see Geelink there a little bit sideways as he came out of 11. That will hurt him all the way down this long front straightaway even. But even is not out of the woods yet in that battle for the 4th position.
He really isn't, and well, he can maybe get a bit of breathing space if Dave Geelink and Simon Cattell start to fight. But as for now, Simon Cattell does not have the overlap. He does not have sufficient slipstream. Of course, that is also affected by the cars running so closely together, and yeah, with a 5-car train all giving each other slipstream, and yeah, you can't really get the overlap. It's a different situation than if you would be all alone with another enemy on track. And yeah, 66th lap completed, 1 hour 15-minute mark crossed. Enzo Bonito still your race leader, and that's been all race long this way. Emil Spindel second, Richie Stanaway third. Nothing changed about that, and we have got 6 laps to go, and by the looks of it, these guys will carry this one home.
Indeed, and checking in for the 15th position on the racetrack, this is Jason Lovatt trying to work on Marcus Caton. Christian Lorente involved in this as well. I see Lovatt that was able to get the pass down on Caton last time by. Caton now working down in the 15th position, Lovatt in the 14th, and these drivers have been going tete-a-tete since the drop of the green flag here today. And let's see, Clark's been going very sideways there down to turn number 2 actually, but this midfield battle is all about points, Marius, and they've got to get themselves enough so they can get into the top 25, because that's essentially what the Pro Series is all about.
It is, and we've been announcing before the race, or in the qualifying even, that this is going to be a race once again with the mid-pack battles, and it's not only the ILEX train from 4th to 8th position, it is between Pierre Ubitsu and Joao Cardoso, and it is also a whole race long between Marcus Kelton, Jason Lovatt and Christian Lorente, and also Thiago Alfao closed into that, so multiple cars battling all over the track. Even if that is just, let's say, for 14th position, still you get good points for that. And we have to remember that the top 25, of course, get into the DWC. And to do that, running into top 15 in the race, or even running into the top 20, just collecting your points all the way through the season is enough to get you in the DWC next year.
Yeah, so as you alluded to there, Mario, the top 25 drivers who in this, the 2012 iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing, will be given the chance to race in the 2013 iRacing.com Grand Prix World Championship Series that'll be on from 2013 and the entire year along. It is still Enzo Bonito out front as he's working on lap number 68 of 73 here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Just a handful of laps left to go for him now. 5 to go at the line. And Benito has been absolutely dominant here today. Spindell still in second, Stanaway still in third, with Evelyn in fourth and Geelink in the 5th position. Having a look down the field, however, things starting to get a little bit more spread out. But you've got yourself, Yao Cordasso and Pierre Ibrizzo still circulating on the racetrack together. But Cordasso looking inside that he's giving up that chase now for the 9th position. And having a look at Cordasso, and he's looking as though he's struggling actually a little bit here on this final part of the race. You say that gap to Ibrizzo was about 2 seconds on the racetrack. Cordasso's had a very difficult lap in that 65 machine. He's fallen back to about 3 seconds now behind Ibrizzo in the 60 car as he's working his way down into turn number 13 now. Down the front straightaway past the yard of brakes in the scoring pylon once again. And it's very slow lap actually for Cordasso, and he is indeed now 2.5 seconds behind Ibrizzo in the battle for the 9th position. Ahead of him, Jesper Pedersen is right in this battle. You've got Pedersen, Sturgios, Cattell and Geelink, and now Timo Evenen, all separated by less than 3 seconds on the racetrack. And Marius, you've got Geelink, Cattell, Sturgios, Pedersen, and any one of these drivers could end up in the top 5.
Yeah, anyone could really do that. It's been going on like this for, yeah, pretty much since the second pit stop. Pretty much since Simon Cattell missed the exit out of the, I believe it was the last turn, wasn't it? Can't really remember when that was.
Yeah.
However, Simon Cattell has lost 2 positions, one to Timo Iwon and one to Dave Geerling, both being his teammates, still being chased by PJ Sturgis and Jesper Pedersen. And it looks like down the main straight, it's not enough slipstream for any one of them. Every lap Simon Cattell is in the slipstream for Dave Geerling, who appears to be a bit slower, but every lap Simon Cattell cannot make the move into turn 1. He's just too far away, and if they continue like that, I don't think between teammates they will do these aggressive dive bombs. They won't really try to crash each other, try to ruin each other's race. So apart from Jesper Pedersen, who's not in iNext Racing yet, so probably after this they want to make a 5-car train out of it, so yeah, maybe there will be negotiations following this. Jesper Pedersen is the only one I could think of trying to overtake PJ Sturgis here, but that would still require him to get a brilliant run out of the last turn, to get a good run of slipstream, and maybe this time by he's close enough, but it's just, he has to be so close, and yeah, he is that close, but Sturgis just gets the run out of the turn, and you may not forget he still has the slipstream from Cattell. However, this time he is far enough away from Cattell, so it could be enough for Pedersen to at least get close to him here. He's got the maximum amount of slipstream down the main straight. He's challenging down him down into first turn. Sturgis closing down the inside line, so Pedersen has to go around the outside, and this could be the one shot he has, and it's just round the outside, and yeah, no. Pedersen just sticks back, and that is a very fair move. He's been alongside him, but he's just sticking back.
And with Pedersen as well, I was just having listened to his engine note, he looked as though he was hitting at the rev limiter, and that could have been the critical factor there, the fact that he just didn't have the rev to make it happen for him. We've seen Pedersen make some big moves here today, and he tried to make it work on the outside line, just couldn't get that car turned down into turn number 1, and that's what cost him. He's now fallen back to about 8 tenths a second behind PJ Sturgis. That back for the 7th position. Meanwhile, it is Enzo Benito. He is coming now down into turn number 5. He's got himself a lap and a half left to go in this race. Emil Spindleson in the 2nd position, Richie Stanaway in 3rd. So we're even in 4th. Dave Geerling running at your top 5. But that battle is still going on, and having a look, it looks as though for the time being, even has just got himself enough clean air to Geerling that he should be able to keep it going, as they've got themselves just a lap and a bit left to go for those drivers. Enzo Benito, however, is working his way down into turn number 11. He's coming now down onto the banking, and this time by he's going to have one more lap left to go for him. This 73 car has driven an absolutely dominant race here today, here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where so many famous names have been crowned champions. And today, Enzo Benito looking as though he is going to crown himself the champion of the 2012 iRacing.com Pro Series Indianapolis race here today, coming down into turn number 1 for the final time. Marius, dominant drive by him.
Yeah, absolutely dominant, and I wouldn't say we didn't expect that, but I definitely didn't expect it to be this dominant after he's definitely been in a struggle from Motegi. He's only had a 1-week preparation time, just as all the other drivers here, and with this track being one of the most slipperiest, most difficult to drive here, he's done an excellent performance, and he's just got a few turns to go. He will be doing a race of 1 hour and 23 minutes somewhat about. So 10 seconds gap roundabout to him, and between him and Emil Spindle in 2nd. However, also a great race from the Swedish Emil Spindle. He's been down 10 seconds, but he's not really in the need of being closer. He's never been in the charge, he's never been as fast as Enzo Benito. However, he's been besting Richie Stanaway by more than 20 seconds, actually 23 seconds to Richie Stanaway. Timo Ivonen still in 4th position, closing in as Enzo Benito comes down the line. The Italian takes victory here at the Brickyard. 1st position, Enzo Benito, 73 car, wins the Brickyard race, and what a brilliant drive, Will.
So after 2 races of Aleski UCI Koda dominating, it is now Enzo Benito who takes home victory here in the 3rd race of the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing. Emil Spindle comes home in the 2nd position, but 9.7 seconds behind, in fact 9.8 seconds behind. Richie Stanaway now working his way out of the final corner for the final time. He is going to take home the 3rd position in this race. We're going to go immediately to check back in this battle for 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th position on the racetrack. It's going to be even and taking 4th. Dave Geerling taking home the 5th position. Simon Cattell 5th. PJ Sturgis holding on to that 7th position as Pedersen has a slow couple of last laps to take home the 8th spot. Pierre Rizzo comes home in the 9th position, and Hal Cordasso now coming out of the final corner. He's going to take home the last of the top 10. The Miguel Martin coming out of the final corner now. He's going to be one of the biggest movers of the day, coming home from 24th into the 11th position. David de Corpus, the last of the drivers on the lead lap, takes home the 12th position. And overall, it has all been about the 73 car, Enzo Benito. The driver from Italy has just been absolutely on form here today.
Yeah, what an absolutely brilliant drive, and what a brilliant event here for iNEX Racing. Enzo Bonito taking the victory for them. Only lately joined the team, so he's fully in the team now probably. So Dave Geerling takes home 5th, followed by Simon Cattell and Teemu Ivonen ahead of him. So 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th for iNEX Racing. PJ Sturgis in 7th position. So great event for iNEX Racing in the top 7. 5 iNEX cars, and what a great race.
So we'll run through your top 20 drivers in a couple of moments' time. But, as I say, it has been a very good race for Benito. A very bad race, however, for the likes of Yakola, Narimi, and Morgar DG Filo. To run through your top 20 drivers, then, it is Enzo Benito in a time of 1 hour 23.09. He comes home in the first position, Emil Spindel in second, Richie Stanaway in third, Timo Ivonen in the fourth position, Dave Geerling in fifth, Sam Cattell in the sixth position, PJ Sturgis in seventh, Jesper Pedersen in eighth, Pierre Brizzo in ninth, and Yao Cordasso running out your top 10. You have Miguel Martin in the 11th spot with David de Corpus in 12th. Andrea Boldi comes home in the 13th position, the first of the drivers, one lap down, with Jason Lovett in 14th, Christian Lorente in 15th, Marcus Caton in 16th, Thiago Efere 17th, Yao Pino in 18th, Ryan Terpstra in 19th, and Wes Richards running out your top 20 drivers. And Marius, when we think about the championship standings from here on in, yes, these drivers got one drop race, but from now on, Yakola cannot put a foot wrong in this championship.
Yeah, not only he can't, but also Yuda Narumi and Morgar Filo can't. And Narumi has been starting way down the grid. He's had a great start. He's been almost into the top 10 right away, and then made the mistake out of the final turn. Early fatigue settling in for him. He's put the car into the wall, ruined his race, and so that is also a drop week for him. And that tumbles down these guys way down the championship standings, and also makes the whole thing a lot more exciting. Before this race, we remember Alexi Usiakola in the lead quite dominantly with 100 out of 100 points. Both race won for him, and after this devastating loss in this race, he's been tumbled down, and like you said, he's only 1 point ahead right now.
And at time, we'd like to welcome in our winner of the third round of the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing, Enzo Benito. Bellissimo, congratulations, and welcome to Winner's Circle.
Well, we should actually explain that Enzo does not have a microphone yet. However, we try to still get an opinion from Enzo here and come back with that. At least we'll want to give him a voice here. So, Enzo, you can really type here, and we'll bring it on to the guys here in the voice version. Until then, just try to make something up. Until then, we've got the entire iNEX train with us here. Teemu Ivonen, Dave Geerling in 5th, Simon Cattell in 6th, PJ Sturgis in 7th, and we've got Teemu, Simon, and PJ with us here. Great race, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
So, yeah, it's been a team effort, really. So, not just you in 4th, Teemu, also your teammate Dave, who isn't with us right now, in 5th, and Simon and PJ in 7th. Yeah, just a great team effort.
Yeah, we did pretty good. Everyone seemed to have got through the mayhem at the start. I haven't seen what happened there yet, but quite a lot of cars got taken out, and I was really happy to see that all of our cars managed to survive that and get decent finishes.
Yeah, you've been talking about the mayhem. Meanwhile, you have been able to see that on the screen here. Yeah, definitely a lot of mayhem in the first couple of corners. So, Motegi hasn't really been the best result for you guys. Best one of you, of course, Enzo in 6th, and then Simon in 7th. So, especially with you, Timo, not exactly probably satisfied with the 20th position on Motegi. This should probably be, the turn in the championship pretty much. So, of course, with the victory from Enzo for you guys, pretty much 5 iNEX cars in the top 7. This should be looking strong for next week.
Yeah, I hope we can keep up the good work. We had some good moments this race, and and yeah, just hope to keep the ball rolling for next week. I think Motegi was, for most of the guys in our team, a pretty good track, but I decided to start from the pits because I thought it would be some mayhem at the start, which there wasn't, so kind of lost out on that. So I'm happy I survived the start mayhem here.
And Team Raven, of course, coming home in the 4th position. Checking in next, I'm having a look through the field. We've got ourselves Simon Cattell. He came home in the 6th position. And Simon, you've got yourself a 6th place finish here today. But pit road seemed to be very difficult for you. And then that last moment down into turn number 11 on your outlap really put paid to your chance to beat even in this race.
Yes, a bunch of silly errors really put together, but nevertheless, you can't really be disappointed with the result from our team. I mean, we've done a very good job, I think, and I'm proud of all the guys because we did a lot of practice for this race and a lot of work went into that setup. So I can't be too disappointed, but obviously it would have been nice to cancel out those errors in the pit lane.
And when we take it through your race, I mean, you had some very good straight line speed. You were able to catch, even in many parts of this race. But just how difficult was that pit road? I mean, it's slippery, 55 miles an hour, breaking down to 0. Was it? I've heard a number of other drivers having difficulties getting on today. Was it just, the nature of the day for you?
Yeah, it was just a bit of that, and I was a bit tense going into the pit stops for sure. I mean, the pit lane itself, when you start to brake and get down to pit lane speed limit, it's a little bit bumpy on the entry, which can sort of mess up your speed, and it's very, very easy to overshoot the pit lane limit. Luckily didn't do that, but then overshot the pit box on 2 occasions, so it's a very slippery surface on the pit lane. It's much less grip on the track, so it's easy if you're not completely settled to make such a easy mistake to make in those kind of places.
And of course, next week you head back home to Northamptonshire, to Silverstone. You looking for a better result or a good result as you've had this week?
Yeah, definitely. It's quite a different track. It's got very different characteristics, and it's also the historic layout, so it's something different than what we're used to. It completely cuts out the club corner, if I remember right, and I forgot what the other one's called, but yeah. Abbey, that's the one. But yeah, well, it's quite a different track, so we'll have to do a bit more work on the setup and try and get it dialed into our driving styles, and yeah, you can see what we do. Hopefully we can carry this form into the next race.
Well, well done on your 6th place finish. As an Englishman, I shall allow you the honour of forgetting Abbey Chicane and still staying alive. But Simon Cattell came home in this race in the 6th position. Moving on to PJ Sturgios. And PJ, a good race for you, getting yourself up into the 7th position.
Yeah, that was really good. Again, like Simon said, it was a great team effort, but this is one of my best pro finishes in a while, so I'm really glad to have stayed out of the first lap mess and be able to bring it home with a 7th place.
And when we have a look at your race as well, I mean, in that 39 car, you started this race, down in the 13th position, managed to work your way up into 7th. Could you really have asked much more in this race?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was kind of a boring race, probably from the spectator's view. But I also, like Simon, had problems with the pit road, which I should have known better since I have so much experience on the oval here with the stock cars and Indy cars. So I really don't have an excuse for the mistakes I made. But I guess if I'm going to get beat by someone because of that, it may as well be my teammates. So again, happy with that, and kind of looking forward to Silverstone next week.
And you had Pedersen right behind you those last couple of laps. How hard did you have to defend to stop him trying to get himself past, especially on that front straightaway down into turn number 1?
Oh yeah, he had a really good run on me going into turn 1, and I tried to defend, and unfortunately I had a lockup and almost crashed into him, but luckily we got through that okay, or else he probably would have been understandably very mad at me, but I'm glad he raced me clean and didn't pull any crazy dive bombs like some guys. So overall, besides that first lap, it's really been a great series to race in this season, and not a lot of stupid moves out there. Lots of really good hard racing, which is my favorite part about all of this Road Pro series.
And final question from an IndyCar fan: when am I going to see you in an IndyCar again?
Oh well, right now I'm just focusing on this F1 car, but who knows, maybe come the Indy 500 in May, maybe I'll step back into that and try to qualify my way into the top split this year, which is something I've never been able to do before, but it's definitely a big accomplishment just to be able to get into that top split in iRacing.
10-4, say PJ Sturgis coming home in the 7th position. Having a look, and we have got ourselves Jesper Pedersen coming home in the 8th spot. Jesper, essentially same questions for you, but those last couple of laps, you tried to find a way past PJ, and then it looks like you just kind of got bored and backed out of it.
Yeah, I had a good run on him a couple of times, but he obviously have some cars in front of him and could slipstream, and I couldn't get a decent run. I had one time, but I couldn't pass him in turn 1.
And for you, I mean, you've had yourself a good race. Say that 80 car started this race again, a little bit further down the field, down in the 10th spot, move your way up into 8th position overall. Could you have asked yourself for any more at all, or was that just, the best you could have asked for, all things considered, after 73 laps of racing?
I think if I had a better start, I really think I could have got PJ early in the race, maybe challenge Dave Link, but I'm not sure. But I'm pretty sure that I could have been further up the field.
Next week, of course, we're heading over to Silverstone. Silverstone, a very different track from what we've been used to today. You're looking for a similar type of performance, and can yourself and your teammates build something to get yourself some more top 10 finishes?
Yeah, we have a very strong team, and I'm sure we're gonna get a good setup for next week. But I never raced the track before in a race, only some couple practice sessions. So it's gonna be tough, but I hope I can still manage a good result.
Well, Jesper Pedersen coming home in the 8th position. We've been able to get some words from Enzo Benito, and he says that he was very surprised by the win. As he always says, his goal was for a top 5 in those first laps. He was really nervous, but he just tries to take it easy. And Marius, that really is the whole thing. If you overdrive these cars, you actually put yourself into more difficulties than if you just kind of relax and get into a rhythm.
Yeah, and that seems to replicate exactly what Enzo said. He said that he's surprised with the win, which we can of course understand, but his goal, however, has been the top 5, so it's not that surprising after all. Enzo has had the pace on Spa, he has been really competitive there, and we have been thinking about at least a top 2 finish there. He's been very strong in these races, however had a little drop in Motegi, now came back with the victory. He's just proven that he's one of the championship contenders right here. Alexios Jakola with a very weak, a very bad week in
Silly
fact.
boy.
So, Alexios Jakola having a drop week right here, and that puts Ento right into display. And with a week like this, a race like this, if he continues like, he will be one of the main championship contenders.
Indeed, I'm having a look at the championship standings, and we have now got no confirmation, so we'll try and bring that to you later on today. But I do think it is going to be a Cola by the look of it by 1 point over Benito. Which shows you have one drop week, but championship coming out of Indy, it's going to be completely wide open. Don't forget, iRacing Super Saturday on Glacier TV continues later on with the Blondies MX5 World Tour, and that'll be coming from Silverstone South, and that'll be at 6 p.m. GMT, and then round 7 and 8 of the Glacier TV Pro Tours $1,000 Cup. They'll be coming from Sebring International Raceway, and Marius, looking forward to that race. You talked about turn 1 and turn 2. Sebring is a very tough track, and these LMP2 Honda Performance Development machines are going to struggle around there.
Yeah, and I don't really need to explain much what we've seen at Suzuka. If you have been a guest at Suzuka, you've seen how hard it is to get a clean first couple of turns, and I'm just really looking forward how the guys will manage it this time. It's once again Gregor Hutu versus Jesse Niemann versus Martin Krönke here, and yeah, it's the question: will Hutu get the lead again? Will get the victory again, and will be able to extend the championship lead? Even he's already in the lead, and it's just going to be a packed Saturday again with the highlight, of course, the Pro Series and the Glacier Proto Ice Cup tonight. So you best be sticking around. We've got the Blondies MX5 coming up next, and the Glacier TV Proto Ice $1,000 Cup, and you best not miss that.
So we'll be back in 2.5 hours' time exactly for the Blondies MX5 World Tour from Silverstone South, and then the MX5s. And the MX5s are done, and after that it'll be the Proto Ice. We'll see you later on. Until then, bye.
Race fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Travis, start your engines!
Michael Conti comes up at a corner number 4 in the checkered flag. He wins his first NASCAR iRacing.